Hey everyone, this podcast is part of Story Mode, the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. You can support us and gain access to other great exclusive podcasts at patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds. Welcome to Guylight, a podcast about vampires. Ho, ho, ho.
We're good. Adam.
I don't know how good we are, Dave. I'm not sure at this point.
We're bringing joy in these dark times.
I was so glad to hear the fans were not disappointed.
Right.
With
They're going to be... Chronologically, it's going to be so off because those first episodes were just like, "Hi, the world's great."
Everything's
I know, fine. And
I know, like, man.
And then us talking now, it's going to happen weeks,
right,
after when we recorded. So
right.
like, it's like a weird time vortex.
It really is, yeah. Because we just released. I'll show you mine if you show me yours. Our third episode today, and which dates when we're recording this? It's Friday. And I'm like, man, I don't know if we should have released that show right now. It just doesn't feel like just a sort of playful anecdotal thing about our past seems wrong. Yeah. But you know, man, I don't know. Our job is to be fun and keep our mouths shut at the wrong time.
We're here to distract people.
At least a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. I certainly felt distracted today. Watching Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 1.
Holy shit, man. Okay, just before we do anything else, so far of the 4 films, where does this rank?
All right, I was not prepared for this movie.
I was not either. Holy God.
Yeah.
It was different than the rest of these movies.
Well, it's a new director.
Yeah.
They're not a bad director. Let me look them up. I looked them up earlier. In terms of ranking, G's and crackers. It's the director of The Beauty and the Beast, the new one.
The adaptation. That means nothing to me at all. I never saw that.
It's also the director of Dreamgirls.
Okay.
The Fifth Estate. And then 2 Ian McKellen movies, Mr. Holmes and The Good Liar, which I've yet to see. Very excited
The
for
Good Liar is that old like honeypot movie,
it's
right?
Ian McKellen Honeypot.
Oh, well, that one I wanted to see. So I would have said from the list before that I'm very unimpressed, but that movie looked great.
Also, the movie Sister, the 1987 movie starring Eric Stoltz and Jennifer Jason Leigh. Called
What a
Sister,
legacy.
Sister.
What a legacy.
Yeah.
New director, new direction. But Dave, where on your Twilight rankings does this fall?
Adam, I think these films just get better and better. Like,
you are a fucking liar.
Well, okay, here's what you have to ask yourself.
Yeah, I do. I have to ask myself a lot of things.
Watch these movies, meaning what is the purpose for a person like myself, or really anyone, to watch these movies? And I think it's that the reason I legitimately enjoy watching these movies. I'm not saying they're good movies. It's because
I understand.
They throw you through such a loop. They're so fucking weird that they keep me entertained and distracted the entire time.
It's funny because, like, this movie felt like it really clamped down on a tone, right? Like, it clamped down on a pretty specific tone the whole way through. And yet the things that happen in it are just, like, if you wrote them down on a spreadsheet, it'd be like, that is the craziest movie I've ever heard.
It's fucking wild.
It's so wild.
There's some incredible moments that, there were a few moments that I rewound, and I was like, wait, what?
Yeah. I say, like, even though I really struggled to understand what this movie was about, it was very engaging.
Yes.
Like, it was more engaging than any movie since the first one, I think. Although it was way less well put together. as a movie than any of the movies so far. It was the worst in terms of that.
Well, it has the least amount of plot, or the most amount, depending on where your priorities are at. I kind of, we've talked about this, is that like the B story of the vampire conflicts is the least interesting. So, and that felt the most like they didn't do any of the vampire council except for at the post-credit scene.
And I didn't want. Fuck, I missed that. They did allude to him in one
Michael
fantasy
Sheen at the end.
Shit, what happens?
It ends with Michael Sheen, and he's in his vampire lair with this other guy, and the guy talks like he's dust. And the Michael Sheen's assistant brings him news on a silver platter. It's like a silver platter with a little bit of news on it about everything that happened, I guess.
Like a paper?
Like a little piece of paper on a platter, and the assistant brings in. And then he looks at it, and it's the Cullens saying that, well, they have a new member. And then he kills the assistant for getting the spelling wrong on the announcement on the news.
Wait, are you fucking shitting me? This is ridiculous. Are you serious?
He has her dragged out of the room because it's spelled wrong. And she screams. The assistant we see, I think, in the previous film.
But not Dakota Fanning. Not Dakota Fanning. Oh, yeah. Okay. So, like, he's literally a Hollywood studio executive. He's just like a monster.
Well, yeah, I get the idea, which is that they have these vampire interns, and, like, they want to become vampires, but, like, if they do one thing wrong, then it's like, well, we're going to eat you. That's the job. Yeah, you have to be perfect.
This is what development is actually like for those of you who have dreams of the biz, I guess. Right.
And then Michael Sheen is there. His friend is like, well, at least we're not at war with the Cullens anymore. And he's like, we sure are. Then that's not the exact line. Then he says, they have something I want. And then it cuts, which I assume might be the baby. Folks, this is the Twilight where she has the baby.
Oh my god, dude! Are you okay? So you're not bullshitting me. I'm going to believe that you're not bullshitting me with this end scene.
No, it's more or less the end scene.
That's fucking crazy. That scene is crazy.
They're like, setting up the next film. Yeah,
but it's the last movie, and we're introducing this conflict. Yeah. What are we doing here?
I don't know what we're doing. I have no idea. Well, every movie introduces a new fucking conflict.
I'm going to tell you right now, I think this movie is what she wanted to say. I'm going to tell you that right now. I believe this movie is what the whole point of the series is.
Yes. Hey, yes. Do you remember the vampire lady who was mad that they killed her boyfriend? At the baseball game, Scumbag James.
I didn't know she was there.
Wait,
she wasn't there.
She wasn't there.
No, they killed a different. Maybe they killed. Maybe it was the other vampire. The reason
I bring it up is because I don't believe it shows up in this movie at all. I thought that was going to be a thing.
Right, they spent enough time that it. I assume it's going to be in the fifth movie somewhere. Otherwise, What the fuck are we doing here?
Well.
Like, why did we even meet them?
I keep trying to predict how things are going to happen, and and I keep getting wrong because I overestimate these films.
Because you assume that like it's going to follow basic narrative rules,
right? And it doesn't.
It doesn't. No, it doesn't. And it's not creative in that it doesn't. It feels like really inept.
Yeah.
Really inept. Like I'm very surprised this particular movie was made. Like out of all the movies, this is the one that I'm like, this probably shouldn't have gotten greenlit because it's a mess.
Yeah, but it's the book. It's the Twilight Saga, so
right. But
they had to finish it. They were making enough money where they're like, we have to wrap it up.
I hear you, and yet right. So there had to be a movie had to exist of that text. But like, studio executives aren't idiots, right? Like they're very smart people.
Yeah, like, but they like money.
Sure. I just can't imagine anybody read the script and said, it's ready. Let's make it.
I was thinking about this in this watching this one is that I think it might be interesting to reboot this series. But in order to do that, I think they probably have to be not faithful to the books because I assume that's what's happening.
I agree. Okay, so I don't want to get way ahead because I also wrote down, this is the movie where I was like, there's like 15 better movies in this story than the movie we're watching. But just really briefly, Damon Lindelof could Watchmen the shit out of Twilight. and it might be kind of good. You know what I mean? Wouldn't that be awesome? It could totally be good.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't like Watchmen, but yeah.
Oh, I did. I really liked. I really did like Watchmen.
I didn't finish it. I hate his mystery box garbage.
I don't like that either, but it was a good version of it. And with Twilight, it's like, who fucking cares? Hit it, you know? Let's do it.
Right.
Why not?
No, a Twilight series I think would fucking rule. I think it would be the best thing ever. A gritty Twilight series?
Well, I think Twilight is actually trying to be a gritty Twilight series.
Well, this one was definitely the grittiest movie.
No question.
A lot of blood in this one.
No kidding. Really dark at times.
Well, do we have to go through? We have to do highlight, and we have to talk about it.
I mean, look, I'm going to put it to you this way, Dave. I have felt in previous incarnations of this podcast, like we were feeling constrained by these sections. So to me, I think since Breaking Dawn,
it's very funny. You think we were constrained by the sections that we played really fast and loose.
Yeah, but like the last one, for instance, the last podcast, it spent about an hour trying to get through the plot, and we were both by the end just like, fuck this plot, right? So like to me, I say we intermingle Guylight and Highlight the whole time, because Breaking Dawn is meaningless as a structured movie. So like I say all bets are off on this one, but you know I can be overruled, Dave. I'm happy to hear you object.
No, we can go. Let's just talk about it. Let's go. Let's start from the beginning, though.
Let's fucking do. Okay, first line of the movie. No, not the exact first line, but the end of the first line.
I think I wrote this down as well.
Childhood is the kingdom where nobody dies.
What does that mean?
I have no fucking idea. Every single one of these narrative introductions has been shitty poetry from a diary that should have been burned.
And have
every single one.
Yes. They have nothing to do with the plot.
Right. It's like, so does that mean that this childhood dies? Because her mother died giving birth to her.
I have no fucking
what does that
idea.
Mean? Totally baffling, completely baffling. Didn't understand one bit.
Yep.
My notes on that I wrote down were okay. So, and then I put 3 ellipses, and then I put the word okay again.
Yeah. I have a lot of those. I have a lot of like, what the fucks, and just like the word what.
Yep. Yes, the word what applied a lot in this movie.
Yeah. So Bella sends out her wedding invitations. Jacob gets so mad that he turns into a wolf.
Yeah, just really quickly, because it just delighted me. We finally met Phil, her stepdad, who we met him first. We've never seen him, and we
I
had
don't
this
even
whole
know who
scene.
you're talking about.
Right. So like, you know how her mom married some guy named Phil when they went down to So we never met him before. So we have the scene where she gets the wedding invitation. She goes, "Phil, I have news for you," and she walks over to show him, and we get an over the shoulder of him and never see him.
Yeah,
and it's
the
like,
mysterious
what?
Phil. I hope it's Michael Sheen.
Oh no, we actually do see him later on, and he's just some hero with a flavor saver, and I thought that's the 2011est thing I've seen in a very long time.
Yes, that
flavor saver.
Her house is on her beach set. Is my God.
It's incredible.
Yeah, the way they filmed just that scene, it was like kind of shocking. Bella also sends the wedding invitation to her dad, and he looks genuinely surprised.
Yes, he did. I wrote that down too. Is he surprised?
Did she not tell him? Is this how she told him?
Right, and he's taken it pretty well, if that's the news.
Her dad deserves better.
Yes, he also deserves his own movie.
By the end of this movie, he's like surrounded by people who all know what's going on but him.
I think he's the guy who like shows up in an America's Funniest Home Videos or like a Jackass movie where like they're pranking you and he knows he's being pranked, but he's not 100% sure, so he doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
Like that's who he is. He's like, this is bullshit. Something about this is bullshit, but he doesn't do anything about it.
I don't know what's going on. I want a moment like at the wedding or like later for him to be sitting there quietly and he just goes, "Vampires. Oh, of course. Jesus."
Yeah.
Because he goes in their house. I love when they're at the wedding and he's going through the house and he's like, they have a lot of graduation caps.
Right. I was like, oh, so this is the moment where he puts it together. I legitimately thought that was planning it.
I was hoping they'd do another scene of him like, man, it's weird they have all these coffins. Like, I just wanted him to keep finding more vampire stuff.
Right. I just felt like we needed a whole Murphy Brown sequence or something where he's like investigating the vampires after that, right?
Yeah.
Like we needed it.
I'm surprised that they haven't given him this. They haven't given him the
anything?
arc. Where
anything?
What's that?
Or given him anything?
Yeah.
Like they haven't given him anything.
All I know is they owe him a lot because, okay, he has a romantic subplot in this.
Are you alluding to Alice again? Because that got totally squashed.
Not Alice, the other lady.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Who I believe is
the
a
wife. No, she's the wife of his best friend, the chief of the tribe who's in the wheelchair.
But he knows wolf stuff, right? They know wolf stuff.
The chief knows wolf stuff. His wife knows wolf stuff.
All I know is that when she calls him, the wife is in the background in his house, and I was like, "Oh, I noticed that. Shit!"
I noticed that too. I think
they're. Yeah, I think they're stipping. I'm pretty sure they're stipping.
That would be very interesting because that would be sort of a way of at least keeping all these bloodlines tied together. The way that it seems like the movie is desperate to do.
Yeah,
you know, I'm not necessarily opposed to that.
Yeah.
You know, far too little infidelity in this ridiculous melodrama.
I want more of this bullshit. More people fucking each other.
Right.
So Bella's preparing for the wedding.
Yeah, she has like several weird nightmares that ultimately are meaningless, right? We agree they're basically meaningless.
I want to talk about Edward's confession to her. First of all, the fact that it happens in her room and she has a portrait of a dog in her room.
Thank you for noticing that.
I don't think she's had a dog. Has she?
It's more like this is what it would be like if I had one.
Yeah, it's just by her bed, leaned up against her like nightstand, and it's a portrait of a dog.
No, maybe it's a way of sort of injecting Jacob into the scene. Maybe the director was getting real cute there.
She's into dogs.
Right? Like the director's being cute.
Right.
You know?
So she's like, I don't know what she's doing, packing for her wedding. I don't remember. And she gets this little smirk and turns around like, hi, Edward, because he's once again broken into her room.
Right. I think at this point, it's like they're living together in that sense. Like, you know, like they're okay with it.
No, it's cute now. Yeah. And Edward's just like, hi, I want to tell you about all the people I killed.
Right. Yeah.
And so it turns out Edward is a serial murderer, or was.
Yeah, he's Dexter. He's doing a Dexter.
Yeah. And it's very casual and doesn't go in, like, contribute to the plot in any way after. He just says, by the way, I want to tell you that in like the 20s or the 50s, I killed a bunch of people who were going to kill other people. I murdered a lot of people. And Bella just goes, that's okay.
Well, she sees him as Batman. You're a hero. You're courageous. The line she gives there.
She says, like, you probably caused less murders.
Yes, you probably saved more people than you killed. It is a line she says. Also, just very quickly, I wrote this down because it was like, holy shit. She says, hopefully when I look in the mirror, I see someone like you. And then she lists all the courage and like all the qualities she sees. And the actress stopped believing the line in the middle of it.
Oh, yeah.
You can see it. Out. She just fucking quit on the line immediately in the middle. It was incredible.
This is an absolutely off the rails way to start this relationship or this movie. So I thought this was going to be the inciting incident. I thought this was going to be Me
too.
But it's just him being like, I've killed a lot of people who I think were murderers, and she goes, cool, moving on.
It's actually it's supposed to be like, okay, so if we're going to use the hero's journey here, right? So like that confession is supposed to give us like, oh, here's the problem, that like he is even in his best of intentions, he's still a murderer, right. And like that's supposed to carry through as a conflict. The problem is that like they also didn't have any courage with the way that they told this story, so it sort of makes him into Batman. She treats him like Batman.
Then she has
and
death
it's dumb.
nightmares.
Right, so maybe that's supposed to connect the two things, but I don't think so.
That's what I assumed. I assumed she was like, oh, that's okay. And then in her subconscious, she's like, no, that's not okay. You're getting married to a fucking murderer. And when she starts walking down the aisle, I expected her to bail. And I thought the conflict was going to be her. She can't reconcile this.
Yes, I agree.
Instead, she gets married and they completely changed the plot.
Well, so it was like a total misdirect that then they did about a 40-minute detour, and then they came back to it as though we were supposed to still think it mattered. Right? Because like him being a murderer is a thing in this movie, in the sense that, you know, he gets her pregnant, which is basically a death sentence, albeit accidentally, supposedly,
her with his demon seed, and that is the is the conflict. The main conflict of this movie is a Cronenberg film.
Yes, it is, and it takes 51 minutes for that to start. The film to start, it takes 51 minutes.
Yeah.
Yes, I did too.
I was like, the time code, and I was like, we're 40 minutes in, and I think nothing has happened.
Yeah, exactly. It is 50 minutes in, and nothing has happened. And so again, I want to highlight that in a minute, but when we get to the right point, it's not now. I will say this. So I thought a lot about Edward this time because, as you know, I've been like wrestling with how to be objective about the Team Jacob, Team Edward thing.
In terms of that, okay, well, sorry, you had something to say.
No, it's okay. So my thought is so Edward firmly joins sort of the tradition of like conservative religious men with that confession, in that he's confessing to dark impulses that he's used correctly, because this movie fundamentally believes sex is evil. It does believe that, and I don't think it means to believe that, but it does.
Oh, 100%. Yeah,
like the film is basically a bad sex education movie.
I'm convinced Bella will have only had sex the one time.
I don't think. No, I think we're going to end with a happy marriage, because that's the.
Yes, but it feels like it's
Mormon
like
to me.
No sex before marriage, and you have sex to have kids.
I mean,
it feels
but
very
also,
much like that. When they were like, we can't do sex stuff, and they keep being like whiny about it, I was like, well, there's like other stuff you can do to each other.
Not only that,
I don't think it's occurred to them.
Right, not only that, but it's like, wait a minute. The sex before marriage thing in all the religions I'm aware of is supposed to be because it's keeping the bond of marriage sacred. It's not because sex is bad.
In this case, it's literally bad for Edward because he's afraid he's going to fuck her to shreds.
Yes, and for her because
it's so weird how much discussion there is about Edward fucking her to death.
Yes,
by multiple people who are concerned.
I agree. It is very weird. This movie is a bad.
Mm-hmm. It is a bad.
It is a bad. It is. This movie is a bad. No. It's a horrible exploration of human sexuality. Like abjectly horrible.
Oh yeah.
And I don't say that like again, I come from a conservative background with a faith-based education that has its own problems, but like this is much worse than I've seen in my life.
Well, we're starting to learn why people are so hard on these films. Is that I'm enjoying them for being batshit. They're keeping me entertained.
Sure.
But I would never show a kid this movie.
I know. Can you imagine being a preteen and seeing this movie? And like, first of all, because the movie spends an hour on the honeymoon.
Right.
Which is, the sacred we've been waiting for at sex time. And the sex time is a nightmare. Every aspect of it is a nightmare. It starts in
the ocean, which I was like, oh, don't do that.
That's the worst way to begin this enterprise.
Don't do any genital stuff in the ocean. Yeah. Don't even fucking be in the ocean. What are you doing?
Right, it's gross and salty. You'll have to shower before you can do anything, and that's a big delay. What are we doing here, guys?
It's a fucking nightmare.
Read a book. Read a book. You know what I mean? Like ask a person who's done this. Yeah. So wait a minute. Going all the way back to Edward the Dexter.
I don't want to skip ahead.
Oh no. Going all the way back to Edward the Dexter.
Okay.
I have two comments about that. First is now that you know he's a virgin, does it change your opinion on everything he's done so far? Now that we have confirmation he's a virgin, does that change your opinion on anything he's done so far?
No.
You still think he's a maniac?
Yeah, I don't want to be hard on virgins. But
But
I don't
fuck
mean
them.
look. I don't. This isn't supposed to be hard on virgins, but the
Right.
fact that he's like a sexy Robert Pattinson type,
Sure.
and he's lived 100 years, that weirds me out. Because
So you mean you don't believe it? That's what you mean. You don't believe it's possible.
Yes, I do not believe Edward is a virgin. That is for sure.
So that means you're rejecting the movie.
He seems so scared of sex that he's clearly fucked someone to shreds in the past.
No, I think that he has been taught. Honestly, again, this looked kind of familiar to me. Like he has been taught through some kind of system that like this impulse can't be controlled or dealt with at all, because if you do it,
but why not the vampires fucking other vampires?
I don't know the rules, but they've never gone into that. Have you noticed
that? I think the fact that he's a vampire is what does it for me. Because it's like he's like,
that's what makes it weird.
It's impure, and it's like you're a vampire. Sir.
I agree. Vampires are the exact opposite of this archetype.
Yeah,
like it's a real Travis. It's like we have to undo everything we think vampires are to do this show or movie. It's stupid.
It's not just that Edward is creepy.
He is creepy.
I will say that maybe he doesn't quite understand what has happened to him because he's part of a cult.
That's true.
Which doesn't absolve him, because again, he's lived 100 years. He should have figured this out, but like he's so deep in this weird no sex family, you're my son cult that it's his brain is scrambled. I mean, I want to talk about his bachelor party real quick.
Oh my God, me too. Hold on, David. I'm sorry. I got to drag this podcast to a halt to make this point.
That's fine.
So I just want to say, because I know that most people are going to think the way you think about Edward, which it makes sense to me and I understand it. I just want to say that I do understand what he is supposed to be. I understand what he's supposed to be, and I think that if you don't have a religious background, I'm serious. If you don't have a religious background, you can't understand what makes him do what he's doing, and he seems like a maniac.
I do not have a religious background, but I do understand the concept.
No, but you don't empathize with it. You don't understand it in an empathizing way.
Well,
which is fine.
Well, here's the thing. I understand a person, like a 17 or 18-year-old who doesn't want to have sex until they're married. I understand
100%.
the human version of this.
Correct.
A person who believes that in their core that this is how the world works. This is what God wants.
Right.
And I need to stick to it. It's the same argument, which we'll certainly get to, of the pro-life, pro-choice people.
Oh my God, the abortion stuff.
Just starting the conversation, because who knows what will come out of my garbage mouth.
I don't know
I'm
either.
extremely pro-choice.
Fair enough.
But someone once pointed out to me, like, pro-life people who if someone actually thought that there were facilities that were murdering babies, it at least makes sense why they're so out of control. And it's that same idea, is that I don't agree with them. I think a lot of things people have done in the name of pro-life is horrific.
Yeah, there's some heinous actors there.
It helps you understand them when you're like, they think that's what's happening and they are misinformed, but like, of course they're out of their minds. And it's the same thing with the sex thing, is if you legitimately think this is the consequence, if I have sex before marriage, this is what I'm doing. It's the concept of hell, or like hurting your soul, something I don't believe in. But like, if someone believed in that, I get why they are very strict, because it's like, yeah, if I legitimately believed something eternal would happen to me, then yeah, I'd take it seriously. I get the seriousness that people have towards these beliefs that I do not agree with. That's
the thing, is he's the product of all of that. Which is why I mean, because I was trying, like, when I was watching the second and third film, I was trying to be like, why do I connect to this guy so much? I mean, he's objectively bad. I don't get it. And it's like, oh, I see why, because he shares like my upbringing. That's why.
But I still think there's a world of difference between a human having that
and a 100-year-old
vampire.
Except that, like, he's very fucking sheltered, man. Like, he's more sheltered than most people by a lot.
In a cult.
Yes, I agree. And like, that doesn't excuse anything at all. Like, not a single thing. But it does make it easier for me to look on him and sort of have some pity for him, which I think is what the movie wants us to do.
I mean, I think the movie wants us to think of him as a straight-up hero.
He's not that. He's definitely not that.
Who made it? Like, I think... I think,
but he's not a hero, though. Like, he's objectively not a hero.
This is why these movies come off as bonkers, is because there's clearly a morality that the writer tried to inject in.
I don't think they tried. I think they wrote a movie from their point of view, and it just sort of smattered all over the place.
Okay, yeah.
And they did a really bad job with it.
But
like,
it directly
a really
contradicts the tone and the theme, the theme we all know about it. And so when the movies come out, it's like a short-circuiting robot.
Yes, it is. Because, like, when we're actually watching those sex scenes, by the way, like, when we're watching the sex scenes, they feel very awkward. And it's like, wait a minute, are we supposed to enjoy the sex or think it's terrible? Because, like, you're telling us both things. It can't be both.
A lot of the Kirk Cameron films, a lot of religious movies have this issue, I think.
They short circuit because they're trying to be both things.
Yeah. They're trying to rant this religious message, and it's just... like these hard and fast rules, plus trying to tell an interesting story of morality and people, and it's like it never quite works.
It doesn't work because this is a really weird tangent, but I'm going to take it. So it doesn't work because, like, all these religious filmmakers think that they have to censor the content to deliver a message,
right?
And you don't.
Except for Mel Gibson, who's just like, I'm going to make a snuff
I don't
film.
think of him. He's not a religious filmmaker.
Okay. I've never seen The Passion of the Christ.
I have. It is literally violence masturbation. It's not a religious film. I am happy to argue with anybody who disagrees with that.
Sure.
The point of it, the spirituality of it, is beating the shit out of Jesus.
Right.
I have very strong feelings about why it's not a religious thing.
So it's like for, I don't know, Satanists? What do Satanists believe?
You know what's funny that you say that? I was working with a Satanist when I was at a coffee shop when that movie came out, and he came to work with me that night. I hadn't seen it yet. I was like, what you been up to, bro? And he was like, I just went and saw Passion of the Christ. And I was like, why? I was like, why? And he's like, oh, the blood and guts and stuff. Like, I actually really enjoyed it. I'm serious. That really happened. And I was like, well, that tells you a lot about what this movie is.
Sure. I mean, for the record, I believe Satanists don't actually... Their belief is more aligned with atheism. I believe
that's what he was. He was an atheist, but he called himself a Satanist because just to be that guy, which is great. Sure,
I don't know much about. I can't speak to Satanist groups or really atheist groups because I don't know much about them.
That's fair. So can I make the point though? I want to make
was, I guess, closest to Buddhism.
Yeah, Buddhism. Yeah, we've talked about that. Just very briefly about the message. So, like, and I want this on the record somewhere, I think. I don't understand where religious filmmakers got the idea that they need to censor content in order to deliver a message. Read the Bible. It's not a censored book. Yeah. It's pretty hardcore, man. I don't understand.
I'm not going to read the Bible, but like,
right. I get it. But I'm like to anybody out there who wants to make this argument, it's like, dude, like, I don't like, where are you getting this from? It's insane. Right. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, that's it. That's the end of my soapbox.
It's weird because this movie struggles with it because we don't think of them as religious movies either.
But they clearly are. And that's the problem, is that they're not religious in their message, but they're religious in their content, and therefore the message is like, well, what are we saying here?
Yeah.
You know, like, and they're just a mess.
Like you said, it was someone who wrote these with a specific belief system, and I believe they were... I get the impression... And I don't know anything about the writer, but I get the impression that it's someone who was in a bubble and didn't realize it and wrote it from that bubble And then everybody outside of the bubble was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I think you've just described evangelicalism in America, by the way.
Yeah, where it's like they wrote it like, oh no, yeah, and then they wouldn't have sex. They'd wait for marriage, and like they didn't even realize in their head what they were doing when they were writing these plot lines in, and then you step out of it. It's like I know we've mentioned Neil Breen before. It's
again, it's like Fight Club. We talked about. There's other movies that are like this that like have a really strong worldview, and then like
those movies are aware of where the starting
not
point
always.
is.
I don't think they always are. I mean, Neil Breen is a bad filmmaker in a way that the people attached to this are not bad filmmakers.
Well, what I was going to say is it's the idea where Neil Breen, it's always vanity. And he doesn't realize, or he doesn't seem to realize that everybody else doesn't think he's a hunk and like a leading man. And so it's that where he's like, yeah, I'll show some skin. I'll show my nipples on this.
Right.
And that's the interesting thing about Neil Breen. If you watch his movies, the women in it are not, the nudity from women is not nearly as bad as the nudity of Neil Breen in his movies.
Well, they're probably not willing to do it. They're probably not willing to do it.
And I commend them for drawing a line, but also it seems like Neil Breen is way more interested in showing his body off.
So is Tommy Wiseau.
Yeah, Tommy Wiseau is another good example. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a theme there. I would say this is, I mean, I can't like compare it to anything like off the top of my head, but there's definitely been movies with like a point of view that are like, because it got too insular. Like, actually, I think you could make that case for the filmmaking in the Star Wars prequels. The Star Wars prequels are like very much insulated, not only thematically, but just the world that he created is very much a world of opulence and sort of unchallenged.
It's the realization that this person doesn't understand what people liked about Star Wars.
Yes. Because once upon a time, he had to struggle to make a movie, and so he had to be a young guy making a fun movie.
Right. It's
now
the telling on yourself thing.
Yes.
It's the guy who tweeted out, there was a guy who, not too long ago, they were tweeting out, I forget what the context was, but he thought he was like dissing or disproving something. He was like, oh, please, I've never met a woman that enjoys sex. It was like,
what? Yeah.
And it was like this tweet that became a meme of this guy accidentally pointing out that no woman he's met enjoyed sex with him. It was like, and he thought that was just a fact about women. Right. So it was like, oh no. And I think it's that tweet is kind of a perfect example where it's like the things that's written in this, they don't realize is not how the world is.
Yeah, that's why I said this one feels like what she was trying to say, because this is where all the beliefs really rose to the surface.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay. We're still at the wedding, by the way.
Okay, so fair. I have some jokes about the wedding because the wedding went on for a long time and a lot of insane things happened.
Hold on, bachelor party. Bachelor party.
Oh no! I'm sorry, Dave. There's one last thing. I apologize. Edward's Confession is the first movie that was better than the movie that we were in, and it's basically like a Dexter Edward solving crimes with his vampire skills, but grieving and brooding alone in his 20s apartment. Better movie than this.
If this was a miniseries, that would be at least an episode of 100%. The miniseries. Is Edward in time? They would keep skipping back and forth, like all their stories of how they met each other and stuff.
Yeah,
those would all be episodes.
He's a perv Batman. He's like a perv Batman. It's a good idea. You know?
Oh, for sure. So yeah,
the Bachelor
casually
party.
admits to killing people, and Bella is just like, it's fine because they were bad, and it's like, okay, like that. I think that really tells on the author too, because it's like, okay, your morality is fucked.
Just anything that he does, you're going to find a way to justify it. That's how all abusive situations look.
It also feels like it's the justifying capital punishment, being like, well, they're bad guys. And it's like, oh, okay, I guess it's okay to kill someone then. It's weird. It's a very weird moment where he casually admits to mass murder, and Bella just completely okays it. And then the film continues.
She doesn't even ask the kinds of questions that you would need to confirm the viewpoint you want to have.
Yeah.
Which is, are you sure they were all murderers? Did you see them with weapons? Like, she didn't even ask those questions.
Yeah, because they show him in a movie theater, and he sees a guy follow a woman out. and then he kills the guy before he gets to the woman.
Right, in a surprise, by the way.
Yeah, and I was thinking, like, in that case, it looks like that man was bad. But what if it was, like, his friend and he was sneaking up on her?
Right, or
to,
what
like,
if
scare
he
her
just...
or something?
What if she dropped a 20 and he was, like, going to give her the 20?
Right.
You know, like, who knows, you know?
Or honestly, what if he was just going to rob her because he needs to feed his family?
Sure.
You know, like, it's like, again, it's the... Oh, Jesus, Edward! Like,
right. This is a pre-crime. There's a whole other pre-crime movie here.
Pre-crime.
Yeah. You know, this is a Minority Report problem, which is another fucking awesome movie.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway. Okay. So that's the first awesome movie. The second one, I'm going to skip ahead, Dave.
Okay.
The second one is to right where you want to go, The Vampire Bachelor Party, because that sounds like an awesome movie.
Okay.
Vampire Bachelor Party sounds great.
Are they gonna fuck mountain lions?
Yes, that's exactly what I said. That's what I wrote down. I was like, even if this movie contains bestiality, that movie is going to be better than this one.
Okay, so what happens is his friends are jumping at Bella's window, and they're like, "Come on, Edward, we got to go bachelor party." And she says something like, "Are there going to be strippers at this bachelor party?" And
right,
he says,
dumb
like,
question.
Yeah, and he says like, more like mountain lions and bears. And I was like, what does that... Wait, what does that mean, Edward?
Yeah.
What does that mean? And then he jumps out the window and they run into the woods. And if I were Bella, I'd be like, what does that mean, Edward?
Yeah,
what
I think
are you doing to the mountain lions and bears?
At this point, we can't just have shorthand. Like, we're going to need the longhand for this. Yeah.
Is he going to fuck mountain lions and bears? I think the implication is they're going to hunt.
I cannot understand what it would be, because hunting seems like a thing they have to do, like going to the grocery store. It doesn't seem like they're super like the way to celebrate bachelordom.
Exactly. That's not a bachelor party.
Totally baffling.
If they are hunting, then I have to say, dude, mountain lions don't kill. There's not that many mountain lions. Like, kill deer. They have ticks. What the fuck, dude? Like, what are you doing to the animal population in this area?
Dude, who knows? By the way, all the good... the answer to that is...
go kill some pandas. Let's do it.
Yeah, the answer to that, by the way, is they've decimated the animal population. Yeah. I have proof for that later on. We're going to talk about it. There's, like, proof for it later on. But...
Oh, good.
I just want to point out, nobody in this movie understands what a bachelor party is.
I don't know what happened. I don't know
what... The three men who've been living together for 100 years, they all get together and, like, clap each other on the shoulder, like, we're all here! And then they go, like, running off into the woods giggling, and it's like, that's not how a bachelor party works.
Yeah. A vampire bachelor party would be
an excellent movie.
It would
Great
be,
movie.
yeah. Oh, yeah, it'd just be called Vampire Bachelor Party.
Yes, you don't have to fuck that up at all. That's an excellent idea we should write it. Producer, write it down.
Okay.
Write it down.
Somebody
Dave,
write
you
it
and I
down.
are going to write this. We're going to write this movie. It'll be easy.
But, like, my God, aren't they fucking mountain lions? I can't get over that. I don't know what that was.
I can't understand what it was supposed to be. Like, I don't understand what it's supposed to be. And there's another thing that happens that I didn't understand what it was supposed to be either. Right. But I'll get to it in a second. Just also really quick, the vampires in this town have completely lost any sense of secrecy.
That's one of my other notes.
They're lugging trees around in broad daylight. Yeah. They're like out in the sun all the time now. So like, I guess the town just kind of given up.
The note I had during the wedding is, oh God, they're such fucking vampires. Where it's like, this wedding, they let other people into their world and like, they're all vampires. They're clearly vampires.
I know. I wrote down the words.
Somebody stop the vampires.
I wrote down the words, the longer this wedding goes on, the more absurd the concept of this series about vampires and werewolves gets.
It was a nice wedding. I think the dad's speech was awesome.
Beautiful.
All the other speeches were,
Wait a minute. The other speeches were a fucking open mic. Yeah. What is going on? Like, they just let anybody talk?
I think that's literally what happened on set. I think they were like, anybody want to do a speech bit?
No kidding.
Like, it was just like Anna Kendrick being like, yeah, I can do something funny.
Anna Kendrick took a full jealous, monstrous turn, which I was like, oh, okay.
The mom just sung.
Was weird.
They knew what the bit was, which is that wedding speeches are a nightmare.
Yeah, but it was trying to be the wedding singer or something.
Yeah.
It was really so. And by the way, the linebacker vampire, whose name I've completely forgotten.
Who can say?
I don't know what his name is.
His name is.
I don't know, but his whole job is to punch werewolves, which he's very good at.
Yeah.
So like he gets up and gives a toast, and this is what he says. He says, "I hope you've enjoyed the sleep for all those 18 years." Right? And it's like, and nobody laughs because it's quote unquote a bad joke. But I was like, wait, what is the joke to that?
The joke, well, he says because you're not going to get any sleep.
Right, you're not going to get any. Right. So I'm like,
and so I thought it was very clever of him because he's the normies, the humans think he means that Edward's going to fuck her so much that she doesn't sleep.
I thought he was just saying you're going to be a vampire. And I was like, what?
But then the vampires know that's a different joke. I thought he was actually very clever.
Okay, so that was just me missing it because I was like, I don't get it. He's just saying, hey, I hope you enjoyed not being a vampire because you're going to be a vampire.
I enjoyed that because both contexts wouldn't get a laugh because both humans and the vampires would be like, that's not funny, man. Don't say that right now. Her dad's right here.
Yeah, totally.
The dad, by the way, takes a jab at her mom.
Yeah, I saw that at 10:42.
She's like, I gave you something old besides your mom, and I was like, dude,
it didn't seem necessary. It didn't seem necessary at all.
No, that was mean.
Yeah, why did that happen?
And she doesn't react well to it.
No, she's like, just like, fuck you, man.
Yeah, and it's like, all right, I don't know why. Huh? I don't know
why we needed that. Okay.
Yeah.
It was just kind of a dumb moment that was like, maybe cut that.
Yeah.
Maybe cut it.
Yeah.
Do one where he doesn't do that joke.
Yeah, exactly. And then go with that version.
Yeah. It just makes him meaner than he needs to be.
Maybe that wasn't improv and the actor was like, I thought it'd be funny. And they were like, no, dude. I mean, we're leaving it in because we don't do more than one take, but.
Right. We're leaving it in because everything anyone says is canon in this Twilight universe, but.
Did you notice that no one was dancing to the same music?
Yes! Why are Edward and Bella slow dancing what is a swing song? I don't know.
It was like one guy's doing like the Crispin Glover Friday the 13th dance.
Yes! I wrote that down.
Yeah, there's like a couple slow dancing in the background, and then like Bella and Edward are also slow dancing, and it's like, I don't understand what the music is. They clearly didn't play it on set.
That's correct. They didn't have any on set. That's the problem.
Yeah, but you'd think
they did not have music on set.
Visually pick up on the fact that it's all wrong.
Like the director, this is a huge directing mistake. Like it's like you gotta play music on the fucking set, man. You have to play it,
or at least like tell them what type of song and keep a rhythm, right?
No, you have to. No, you play the music. It's like you play the music enough for them so that they've heard it.
Oh, and then you do a take
it
without the music.
Yes,
got it.
Yes, it's common sense. It's not a difficult thing to do. It was like, what is happening here?
It was, that was wild.
Right, and then she has that weird dance scene with Jacob, who shows up to the wedding, overcoming his abject bitterness.
He was handling it a little classy.
Is he?
Well, at first, when he lurches out of the woods, and he clearly went to Edward and was like, we'll surprise her.
Yeah.
Then he says, this is how I'm going to remember you, pink cheeks. And I was like, that's a weird thing to say. I get that he's saying, like, not a vampire.
Alive. Right, alive. Yeah.
And then he finds out that they're going to fuck.
And he got real mad.
Yeah, and this is one of the many conversations where a group of people are talking about fucking Bella. And it's weird.
Right.
Where he's like,
and she's just like,
it'll be fine. Her to death. And she's like, don't worry, it'll be fine. We'll be careful. And it's like, why are we having this conversation?
It's I also, given the fact that everyone seems to know that vampire sex works the way it does, why doesn't anybody know that pregnancy is possible? Because when Edward Googles it, it's a thing.
Yeah, people don't know a lot of things about vampire babies, and I was shocked.
It subtly reinforces the idea of like a bad sex education process. That's the thing that's a problem about that. That's actually my big objection to the movie, is that it sort of subtly reinforces a bad sex education process, because like they don't use protection clearly, because you know what I mean? They have sex once and she gets pregnant.
Yeah, this is almost the most honest part of the movie then.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I mean. That's why I'm saying this is what she was trying to say, because she's telling something that's true, but it's not good. It's like she doesn't know. They don't know anything about sex. Neither of them do. Edward's so afraid of sex, he doesn't get educated about sex.
Right.
Neither of them
impossible.
do. Right. Neither of them do before they actually have sex. When she gets pregnant, then the first choice is, now we got to have an abortion, which is, and then she doesn't want to because of the classic dilemma. And it's like
out of control. She is letting the baby kill her. They're doing a very, like, there's always that pro-life usually, even pro-life argument, they're like, unless it interferes with the mother. Like that, I've seen a lot of pro-life moderates be like, oh yeah, you abort the baby if it's going to kill the mother, sure.
Yes, because it might kill the baby too. It's like...
and in this version, they're like, no.
Right.
She will die having this baby. And it's like...
It's literally the worst argument. It's the worst argument there is against abortion, other than, like, I guess rape, but, like... It's a horrible argument. There's no reason to do it at all.
To do
anyway,
what?
Sorry. To do the argument this way. Like, this is just not a... This is not a...
It's fucking... Well, here's where it gets... This is where I'm like, I can't tell if they're being funny. I can't tell if this is a whole prank. Is that... So, we're jumping right ahead, and we're going to have to push back to the honeymoon.
Yeah. But the whole movie's the honeymoon.
We've been talking about the baby stuff, and I just want to point out, so the baby's killing her. She's like, I will have this baby. The whole conflict for like at least 40 minutes is the baby's killing her, she's going to have the baby. And then Jacob says, have you tried blood? Giving it blood? And they all go, oh yeah, I guess we could do that. And I was like, fucking what? You haven't tried giving the vampire baby blood?
Right, it's again.
I figured it was the first thing they did, and they didn't even bother telling us because it's so obvious. And again, it was incredible. It's the not understanding medical stuff.
Yes,
and it was
reinforces ignorance.
I can't fucking believe that the vampires, faced with a woman with a vampire baby, didn't think, I wonder if it wants blood. That is the craziest fucking thing I've ever seen.
But again, that's the most the author telling on themselves.
Yeah,
because it reinforces a non-scientific, non-educated belief system, which is like, well, we don't need that. You know, like there's no reason why these vampire cultists, one of whom is a doctor, to not know this. There's no reason for them not to know it.
They don't even need to know vampire stuff. It's the equivalent of a human who's pregnant with a human child who's dying, and someone goes, have you tried drinking water? And they're like, oh, actually, no, I haven't drank water since I got pregnant. Like, yeah, maybe you should drink some water. It's literally the thing they need to survive.
Right.
And she's pregnant with one. You don't need to know vampire anatomy. You just need to know just that things need sustenance.
Well, again, so just to take the movie a little bit on its own terms instead of totally judging it, the reason I think they didn't think of it, that the reason the movie is trying to convince us that they didn't think of it, is because a human wouldn't drink blood. Right, that's the whole idea. Right, a human couldn't drink blood.
It's a vampire baby.
Right. Of course, Dave, I'm right here with you. Dave, you and I are right on the same logical plane. I'm not having any argument at all. I'm actually frustrated with this movie for that reason. But
that was when insane. She drinks, that was totally was the whole conflict. There was the movie wasted like 30-40 minutes on this.
And also on weird makeup, and they CG'd her face and stuff to make her look sick. And it was like, because nobody asked the first question you'd think of in a brainstorm. Yeah. Anyway, so to move forward on the movie's terms, I think we're supposed to believe they didn't think of it because they could never conceive of a human being drinking blood. So then, which presents the next problem with it, which is when she does drink blood, the way they know it works is that she likes it.
Yep.
What? Like,
she
I don't
might
understand.
Just be secretly a sociopath, which would make a lot of sense considering how quickly she brushed off Edward's serial killing.
I mean, well, again, anyway, I don't need to harp. We're going to come back to this in a minute, I'm sure. But
we're going to go all the way. We're going to go everywhere. It's just, remember that Simpsons episode where Homer gets his hand stuck in the vending machine, and someone finally asks him, "Have you tried letting go of the can?" It's that.
Wonderful. Yeah. 100%. That's exactly where we are. I'm starting to think that
these aren't great movies. Yeah, me too.
I'm starting to think they're bad movies. I'm also starting to think that like everyone was kind of afraid to ask like some basic movie stuff about this. What she should have, like, for one thing, this movie intentionally removes the agency from its protagonist.
Well, we talked about this before. Bella isn't the protagonist. She's the MacGuffin. She's never had agency.
Well, that again, so that's the problem the whole time. But this particular, except for that, the one thing that she's always consistently done is I choose Edward. I choose Edward. I choose Edward. I choose Edward. In this movie, the only real choice she makes is to continue walking down the aisle. Yeah. That's like the only choice she makes. The rest of the movie is her just sort of, being driven to Rio.
There's a fucking
boated to an island,
and just being like, this is great.
And then having enjoying sex. I mean, she chooses to eat chicken and peanut butter, a thing we're going to come back to in a little bit.
She also the choosing to have the baby. There's a scene where
Sure.
There's a scene where Edward is talking to his dad, her doctor, and she says, "What is it?" And then Edward tells her about her body. And it was like he went to Edward with news about her body before he told her. Right. That's Mad Men shit. Like, Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, it's real bad.
Yeah, it's real. She has no agency. She's a prisoner.
I mean, and at a certain point, because she has never one time ever questioned anything. She's never questioned it. Even when she has doubts, what she does is I push the doubts down. I push them away. She never hey, what's at the bottom of the doubt? Let's actually hear it out and not be afraid of it. Let's actually investigate it.
We're watching someone join a cult.
Right, but we're watching somebody who's already
young guy lure her into a cult.
Yes, but she's already emotionally in the cult. Like, as soon as she sees the guy, she's there.
Yeah.
And she for reasons I can't understand. What is it about seeing Edward that calms her when she's walking down the aisle?
Here's
the movie
my guess,
doesn't ever show that.
Is that in vampire lore, they're very good at luring people into a attraction.
So you have an alternative version of Edward and the vampires where they're
just luring her in this whole time. It honestly makes the most sense. If Jacob's sitting there they're literally brainwashing you, and she's like, "But I love Edward," and it's like from the beginning, the first thing Edward did is fart out some pheromones that just made her like a love potion. Like it makes the most sense that she's under a spell.
I mean, everything about it suggests that she's under a spell, and the fact that she is forced. It seems like at the beginning of this movie, she actually starts to be uncomfortable with the idea of being a vampire.
Yeah.
Right? And then ultimately, she doesn't choose to be a vampire when she becomes a vampire, which I don't think is particularly evil. I just think that it just reinforces in a subtle way that this is a cult process.
Yeah. Well, I've come around to you on this incorrectly that Jacob would be the one who'd be like, you have to make her a vampire. They do it without even thinking about it. She dies giving at childbirth, and like a doctor administering anything. By the way, I know we're skipping ahead. Jacob and Edward deliver the baby.
Yeah, that was fucking insane. Right? What?
Whoa. That was out of this world. But he's just like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm giving her my venom. And I was like, oh, gross. It's all white and gooey. But he just gives it to her like it's morphine, where he's just like administrating venom, and nobody questions it. And it's just, they move on. The movie moves on.
It is, and I felt very much like we were robbed in that moment, because for him not to bite her and make her a vampire that way,
he does afterwards.
But uselessly. It's like, no, he do the vampire thing. What are you talking about? Instead, he's been right. Instead, it's like she's artificially inseminated into vampiredom, which is fucking ridiculous.
If I was getting turned into a vampire, and I was planning it, and they were like, "Okay, let's just inject you," I'd be like, "No, you're putting on this count outfit. We're going to a castle."
Right.
We're gonna make it a sex thing.
Yeah.
This is what's happening.
Right. You'd force them to do real vampire stuff.
Injected. Like that's
Also, like I think you'd be really let down if that process began on you, Dave. Scale of 1 to 10, how disappointed are you with the fact that they don't have fangs?
That is a bummer because
they don't have fucking fangs, but they have venom. They have venom, but not fangs.
Do they? Are we sure they don't have fangs? Do they just have like pointy teeth? Because they're biting. They're biting and they're injecting.
But
where's
we
that
never see
venom
fangs.
coming from? No, we don't really see fangs.
It's like they have scorpion stingers at the back of the roof of their mouth or something. It's like you can't even see it.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. It's like their teeth are
where they have
swords.
like a weird like worm in their throat that comes out and we don't see it.
Like a tapeworm, like a vampire tapeworm or something.
That comes from their throat and latches on.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, is that really that irrational?
No, I think it's completely not irrational.
I agree. I didn't fucking understand it. At least at the point where she gets turned.
Yeah.
That it's like she should be dying. He bites her.
Bite her.
It doesn't work. She dies. He thinks it doesn't. He thinks it's too late.
She wakes up.
Then it wakes up. Right. Yeah. By the way, I mean, I know we're all the way at the end of the movie and we're going to go all the way back to the beginning. But like when they started showing in her body that the effects of the venom, which were working sort of like a Mr. Clean ad for her body.
It was like she's becoming Spider-Man.
It's becoming Spider-Man, or it was like the inner montage in fucking Fight Club. And I was like, ready for her to open her eyes and be like, I am Bella's complete lack of surprise. You know what I mean? Just like I am Bella's abject apathy toward your love, Edward. That would have been chill. So chill. So what's the last thing we actually talked about?
The wedding. He takes her to Rio. He doesn't tell her where they're going. Also, when she says goodbye to her mom and her dad, I just want to point out she spends more time and seems to care more about her dad. Which,
definitely,
in terms of the movie, makes sense because we know her dad, but she's
her
lived
history
with her
is
mom.
baffling.
Yeah, she's lived with her mom most of her life, so it's like they forgot that it's not a movie. They were like, it's like she forgot she wasn't in a movie. It's like she only existed since the movie began. It's bad.
I would say nothing exists except for Twilight in the Twilight universe at all.
Yeah, there's no bigger world around this.
Like even I would say those Rio people are basically in the Truman Show. Like they don't really. They're just waiting for him to show up down there.
So they go. Yeah. So they go to Rio. And then he takes to an island island.
I was initially kind of excited about Rio, by the way, because I was like, this might be a fun place to end this series. Like we just get a whole
depression city.
Right, it's the college years. You know, I mean, we're gonna get a whole separate fucking Twilight thing here. You know?
Yeah, that would have been cool.
But
they go to the island. There's a bone montage, like where she's getting ready to bone.
Oh, no. Wait. It's not a bone montage. It's an anxiety montage.
Anxiety to bone.
Where she's worried about sex.
I got to point out that much like how everybody discusses whether or not she'll be fucked to shreds, Alice has given her fuck clothes, which there's a lot to unpack there.
I want to say, like, I don't know that I've really seen this problem in a movie before. Like
nervous to fuck?
The anxiety about a honeymoon, where sex has been sort of difficult,
right?
It's unique, but also I did not enjoy it. I did not like that. I was like, this is really awkward, and we don't need it.
Because at this point, again, her boning is everybody's business at this point.
Right?
It's like an event. Everybody's very excited about it.
Yeah, and I would argue that when we actually get to the sex itself, we didn't need to see it. And I say that not because I'm trying to censor a movie, trust me.
But it is surprisingly more graphic than I thought it was going to be.
It's a lot more... Again, this is a mistake. It's a mistake on the filmmaker's part because we don't need it. We've been watching them since they were teenagers. That's weird.
Yes, I felt uncomfortable.
Which
is weird because, like in other movies with these characters, I don't feel uncomfortable. I guess because they're adults in those movies.
It's partly
in
because
this one, it's like these characters I've known since they're fucking teenagers, and I was like, I don't know if I should be watching this.
It's because they've done so much anxiety build up to it that you're already thinking of it the way teenagers would think of it.
Yeah, you feel bad.
And we don't actually deliver on the anxiety of the sex. So the sex isn't delivered in like a...
Sex goes great.
Wait. So the sex isn't delivered like it's a problem or like in a way that it underscores the emotions of the thing. It's delivered like a romance novel, which is where the movie's trying to have both ways.
Yes,
they're trying to have...
This is something for horny people watching.
Right, and
I was waiting for a full shot of penetration, like the beginning of Antichrist.
Right, It's not graphic in like an emotional way, which is the right decision. So because they didn't do that, this shouldn't be in it. It shouldn't be in the movie. It's weird.
But I want to go back to Alice picking out her fuck clothes because that's Edward's sister.
I don't think they give a shit anymore.
What?
I don't think they give a shit anymore.
Like the movie?
No. Well, yes, but I also think like I don't think that like the vampires feel weird about any of their siblings doing anything
because
or
it's
being
all
involved.
Cult role play anyway. They're not actually siblings.
Right.
So it's just a weird dynamic where she's like, here's some fuck clothes. And then she puts it on. Edward's like, oh, yeah, that's my sister's fuck clothes. My fake sister. My cult sister.
Well,
and
but
it's
I don't
just
think
like, you're all a mess. All of you are a mess.
Yes, they're all a mess. But they're not like previously worn fuck clothes.
We don't know that.
Well, you don't know that either, Dave. You're throwing it out there like, oh, well, she clearly wore it, and the other vampires have seen it.
Bella's dad.
You know, Dave, it's you that's the pervert here.
What if they spread around those fuck clothes? Ultimately, the fuck clothes don't matter because she goes naked, and then she walks into the ocean, and Edward's there also naked. He just like got naked before, and then they start mushing in the ocean, and it's disgusting. They do.
Him getting naked and walking into the ocean before is the most out of character thing he's done.
Unless they're both tripping on acid.
Which David, that's how you'd fix every problem in this movie, and you wouldn't be wrong. Off. Yeah, you wouldn't be wrong. Edward taking his pants off and his clothes off and walking out into the ocean to wait for her to get the courage up is the act of a person who understands he's like the hottest being in that ocean.
Right. He's just like, oh, wait.
Right. It's like suddenly he became Robert Pattinson again.
Yeah.
You know, like Robert Pattinson took over at that moment because it doesn't make any sense as Edward.
You know what he's doing? He's looking for some mermaids to fuck.
Yes. It's right. That's the problem is that the lighthouse intervened briefly. Yeah. You know, a seagull whispered to him. That's what happened. Yeah.
So they have a very uncomfortable sex scene and then they fuck the room. The room gets all fucked up.
Yeah, which, okay.
He's smashing
I don't know
the
how
room.
that shows us anything.
Well, okay. This is what I got from that. Bella wakes up after the uncomfortable sex scene. And they show him like in the heat of passion breaking something.
Right.
Before it, so they establish it. She wakes up and there's feathers on her face. And you see that like the pillows have burst. The lovemaking bed has collapsed.
Yeah.
Bella looks surprised. Which to me implies that he fucked her unconscious. Like they fucked so good that she passed out. And he passed out. Like they fucked themselves unconscious. In the heat of the passion, he broke everything. And because she looks like, like she looks kind of surprised that everything's in shambles. And then she's got bruises on her.
Yeah, I mean, I thought that they both overreacted to the bruises. Well, did you disagree?
I thought that he did. She's like, it's cool, man. Because I was like, look, rough sex is rough sex. That exists. And considering that everybody was scared that he was going to explode her, a couple of bruises is pretty good for the first time. They did okay. Considering that these are two consenting adults who know the dangers of the sex, and they came out of it with her with a couple of bruises, and she's like, it's fine. And they're not big bruises. They're like pretty small. It's just like, yeah, they did. You guys did pretty good at that sex. Then he didn't. He didn't wake up with your guts all over him. So like, yeah.
I've had worse bruises incidentally from ladies who have interacted with.
You accidentally you slam up against a street sign and you get a bruise because you're fucking in the street. It's just what happens.
As one does. Yeah, as one does. Yeah, I agree.
Or a parking meter. Or
that's how a lot of them happen. Yeah, a lot of parking meters and stop signs are imprinted in my back in scar form.
Right. Yeah.
You nailed it, Dave. You nailed it. So can I take a step way back and just make sure I covered this one thing?
Okay, we're taking so many steps back, but it's important that we do. I love how many steps backs we take.
I mean, we have to, Dave.
We have to.
What can we do? What can we do? So Jacob, at the beginning of this movie, is at I'm going to say a 5 on a 10-point incel scale, and he gets to about an 8 here.
Well, he's on the beach with his werewolf buddies, and he's moping. And he's like, he's going to fuck her to death.
Right. Right.
And they talk about imprinting, and we'll definitely get into imprinting.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. He keeps saying he's basically turning to fucking who needs a partner anyway?
Right. They show them all imprinting, and they're all adults. This is very important. Adults kissing on the beach.
Yes,
who are sexually attracted to each other, and I can't stress that enough when we get to the next stage. But and he's like, who needs to imprint anyway? It's bullshit.
Yes, I agree, because it really... I understand that I keep taking shots at Jacob. I only feel like the reason to do it is because I feel like people don't question enough the things that he does that are crazy.
I meant to say this at the top of this. The Edward versus Jacob, it weirdly enough, in terms of quality of the person, I think that it's a draw in this one, because I think at this point, Bella is getting married. She's like, I'm committed to you, Edward. Right. He's just doing marriage stuff. It's still creepy because he's so old. That's never going to not be. Jacob isn't, he's incel, but they're both just the same maniac is what I'm getting to. That they're on the same level in this one where it's just, I don't know. They're not fighting as much.
Jacob's just the one.
We're just so far in it that I can't see.
Agreed.
I can't figure it out anymore. I can't see the difference between the two.
Right, and Jacob is the underdog, and he's but that's it, right? He's the guy that gets rejected, and still has to do all the helping people out stuff.
Yeah,
and that sucks. So I feel bad for him in that regard. I just think that they should have written him way better.
It didn't feel like there was a fight over Bella in this one too, which is why I wasn't thinking of it, because Jacob's just sort of like, look, I'm not happy about this, but I'm not going to tell you I love you a million times. I'm just going to be a emo kid.
Yeah, he's conceded the win to Edward, but he's still kind of on a dark path, I would argue.
Right.
And I think you're going to argue he's on the darkest path because he kind of is.
Things get really fucking weird for Jacob at the end.
Yeah. Well, I'd say they get weird the whole time because this movie very clumsily handles the idea that he was supposed to be the alpha of the pack, and then he says no.
And then he gave it up, and now he's like, maybe I shouldn't have.
Yeah, so he kind of tries to take it back. Or I guess when he breaks the alpha's hold.
He becomes a lone wolf. He is an incel. He's like, I don't need a pack. I'm going to be by myself. Yes. I don't need anyone.
And like all lone wolves, he attracts others to follow him. And he's really shitty to him, by the way. He's like a really shitty leader to him. He's just like, I said, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, maybe he shouldn't be the leader of the pack.
No, he's
not a good leader in this.
No, he's fucking mean. He sells them out. He never tells them what to do. He treats them like assholes. It's like, oh, so you're the worst person to be in charge. I get it.
I need to go to the honeymoon.
Sure. Fine.
Well, you have any final Jacob things for?
For now, no, man. Okay. No, there's more.
Oh, there's
for
more.
Now, no. Yeah.
I want to talk about probably the thing that blew my mind the most of this whole movie, which is vampire honeymoon chess.
Yeah, why? Yeah, why were they doing that?
Why were they doing that? There's a montage in this movie
Yeah.
Where after they fuck the room to tatters, where they just show them enjoying their honeymoon. And what that means is Bella wearing sexy clothes. That's one part of the montage. And going to sleep. Them going hiking, underwear hiking. Which again, okay, honeymoon. And then about 3 or 4 times where they're just playing chess.
Yeah, just a lot of chess. And then
what was that?
I don't know, and I also find it very difficult to believe that Edward would lose at chess to her, given the fact that he's been playing it for 100 years.
Yeah, we don't know that. Maybe he's never played it before.
Well, wait a minute, bro. If we're assuming that he's gone out and been on a raping and pillaging trip for at some point in the 100 years, he knows how to play the fucking game.
I'm not
right.
It would be really weird that he didn't, but considering what we know about Edward and how sheltered he is, I don't know, man. Maybe he was like, I want to play chess, and his dad was like, that's the devil's game. And they're like, Dad, I'm a vampire. And he's like, doesn't matter.
I really enjoy the arbitrariness of your excuses for things, because to me it's like, look, think of Groundhog Day.
This is an arbitrary film.
It's arbitrary, right? But think of Groundhog Day, right? So Phil Connors, to waste eternity, which by the way, he spends like 10 years there or something. The internet figured it out. It's like 10 years, right? To spend eternity, he spends 6 months learning that card hat toss.
Yeah, of course.
So like so you can imagine that Edward's put 6 months of chess in.
No.
You know what I mean? Like,
you're not wrong. I'm just like, in a logical world, yes.
But it leads me to world. Of course not, Dave.
Look, we're on the wrong thing. The thing that's Dave. Crazy is the fact that their honeymoon montage keeps cutting to them playing chess. They're having sex, going hiking, playing chess. It's like they did it for comedy. Like, that's something that would be in a comedy.
I agree with that. I think we're learning something about Edward from the chess.
Played chess on the beach. What does that mean? Why did they do that?
I think we're learning that Isabella is mentally superior to Edward despite his years.
All right, that's what I honestly think. Okay, going back to bad filmmaking, in The Room, there's a scene that everybody knows, which is when Johnny, the character Johnny, played by Tommy Wiseau, goes to buy flowers. And it seems so arbitrary, the scene. Because you have to really dumb down your mind to understand what the scene means. He walks in, he goes, "Hi, doggy," and then the woman's like, "Oh, hi, Johnny, I didn't realize it was you." And then he buys the flower, and she goes, "You're my favorite customer," and he leaves. The point of that scene, I'm pretty sure in Tommy Wiseau's mind, is he wanted to show that the character was nice. He was like, he buys flowers for his girlfriend all the time that the flower woman recognizes and knows him, and he's his favorite customer.
Right,
that
which
was
he
the
butchers.
whole point. You could, in a better film, you'd achieve that by walking up to a flower person, them just saying, "Oh, hi, Johnny," and be like, "Hey," and like maybe say like, "How's your mother?" "Oh, she's good," and then they keep walking.
Daffodils again, man. You're sure spoiling her.
Yeah, but right? you would do that in 30 seconds as opposed to what they do. I think what they were just trying to show is that they're intellectually equal. That's it. I think they're trying to show, and their minds. It's not just sex. They both like each other's minds, but they didn't know how to do that. So they're like, show them playing chess a bunch of times.
And see, to me, they achieve the opposite. Because I'm looking at that like, how the fuck is a guy who's lived for 100 years this bad at this?
No, I think the idea is that since he can't read, well, okay. Oh, I think I just cracked it.
Oh, thank you. I'm so
glad. Since
he
can't read Bella's mind, he's bad at it because he's been cheating on chess for 100 years. And he doesn't even realize it.
Oh, my God.
Well,
holy shit.
Like,
Dave, Dave, if I could read your thoughts, I'd cheat all the time. Yeah. That's all I would do.
Well, I don't think he even thinks of it as cheating. It's just using his assets to win at a game the way they play baseball.
Right.
He's like, I can read their minds, so I'm just going to use that to play chess. The first time he plays chess with someone whose mind he can't read, he's like, oh, this is hard all of a sudden.
I got to think of moves that they might do.
Yeah, I think that's it.
Right, I agree. That's the problem, is it really reinforces the fact that this man's learned very little in his time on this planet. Yeah. He's learned very little.
Well, he's very good looking. He's always young, and he can read minds. How much do you expect someone to learn like that?
I don't know. I thank God that I'm a goblin every day. You know what I mean? Because I've at least learned a couple things.
Yeah. I mean, just like living, aging, like these are things that Edward can't do. It kind of makes sense that all the vampires are frightfully naive. That actually checks out now that I think about
totally. It adds, but again, I feel like it adds up because, like, not because the filmmakers wanted it to, but because it does fit into the worldview making the movie.
It's kind of the most fascinating thing about vampires, if you think about it, is that 100-year-old person who's never known death, the death of others, who's never known aging, who's never known pain or weakness, like, of course they'd be a big dummy.
Yeah, it's almost like childhood is the kingdom where nobody dies, Dave.
Oh, no.
Yeah, fuck you, Dave. I brought it back.
Oh no.
Shit. Holy shit, Dave.
Oh, we did it.
I knew it. I knew it was going to find a way.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Hey, Dave. We believe that, based on this movie, that pregnancy is a punishment, right?
I'm not done with the chess, Adam.
Come on, man.
I have one more thing about the chess.
All right, go ahead, Dave.
Which is that the montage ends with Bella waking up, and he goes, "What is it? A bad dream?" And she's like, "No, it was a good dream because I wanted it to be real." And my question is, was the chess all a dream?
Yes, that's what I thought too. I was like, is any of this real?
Her dreams are maddening because she also has a waking dream. I think the idea is they didn't want to cut to her waking up, but her wedding dream where he's on a pile of bodies cuts to her then like zooming out of her eye while she's awake, and I was like, is she just...
That was weird too.
Yeah, but
yeah,
I don't know what was a dream of that sequence.
That's bad directing. Both of those are examples of bad directing. Because that's just a basic clarity thing. I should know what was the dream. I should know when the dream stopped.
Yeah.
And they were that I was really disappointed with the directing of this movie. And I'm not trying to be preachy. There was just basic clarity things. And to me, if I'm directing the movie, you gotta fix some of this stuff. You just got to. That doesn't make any sense. The acting from the vampire. No, okay. I'm sorry. I'm gonna save this for later. We'll do this for later.
Okay. Well, your question about pregnancy as a punishment, right?
That's what the movie is telling us, because it seems like we only know for sure they had sex once.
Yes.
Right? So like that,
and she immediately gets pregnant. Like, it feels like it's so basic, where it's like they have sex once, and then like the next scene is her like, I'm pregnant. It's like, Jesus Christ.
But it's okay. But she's pregnant after 2 weeks. She's a little late, so she doesn't take a test. She just knows by feeling her stomach. And then she gets 9 months pregnant in a month. Is that right?
I think because it's a super baby.
I assume that.
Yeah. They both make pregnancy seem horrific and speedy.
Which is, and it's neither thing. It's like, I don't know why we did that. What's the point of it?
What's the point of any of this?
Right. I'm sorry, Dave, you're right. I don't understand why certain points give me the nihilism and not others, but this one really got me.
It's weird. Her pregnancy is weird. She wants chicken.
Dude. The chicken with peanut butter thing, I understand that it's supposed to telegraph that she's pregnant. It's still like...
I don't think... Correct me if I'm wrong, people listening. I don't think when you get like 2 weeks pregnant, you immediately do the cravings.
I thought it was like a month or something.
You're not turning into Venom. Like it's not a immediate transformation. It's a gradual one.
But maybe it's because of vampires. Maybe it's vampire logic, right?
Right. Yeah, his demon seed is all up in her.
Right, and it's like, again, it's sucking her dry. It's like the first actual vampiric act we've seen in the whole fucking series.
Yes. Can we talk about the housekeepers?
Yeah, I didn't know what to make of that.
So,
did you?
I don't know why they were in the movie.
I don't either. I couldn't figure it out.
They were living in their own horror movie because they're clearly terrified. And then he's like, these are our housekeepers. And then they leave the scene. She's like, what's wrong? And they're like, oh, they just think I'm a demon and they're terrified of me. And they're like, haha.
Right.
And I was like, all right. So that poor housekeeper. And then he brings the housekeeper in. And he says, like, please, you have experience with this. What do we do? And I'm thinking,
how do we know that? Yeah.
Yes. How do we know that? Why does she have experience?
that's where our next great movie idea that we didn't make is Vampire the Help.
Yeah.
I wrote that down. Vampire the Help.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah, good idea for a movie. It's right there.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, she just says death.
Yeah, right. It's like, okay, all right, fine. Yeah, I forgive me, Dave. I want to say more about this, but like I'm like legitimately don't know what to take from any of that. I like left just with it was a big cosmic shrug for me.
I'm not sure.
Say what?
I'm not sure. I just don't know.
I couldn't. It's like I understand we need people to move exposition sometimes, and we need like people to just serve basic plot functions. These people bring in a whole different class of people that deserve a story in the vampire universe, and then alludes to one that's kind of interesting, and then that we'll never see them again. Right.
That's it for them.
Yeah, we'll never see them again. I can't imagine. Right? Is there any way?
It's just like the girl who's mad at Scumbag James about Scumbag James, where it's like, I just don't know.
Was it James that she was mad about?
They killed Scumbag James.
But it wasn't the other guy, the one that they recruited from Forks.
Wait.
I didn't know which vampire they were fucking referring to.
Sorry, I just remembered the previous plot. She's dead. Edward broke her neck. The vampire I'm thinking of, who I'm like, whatever happened to her? She died in the last movie.
Yeah, that was right. So there's literally no evil vampire. Yes.
Okay.
Correct. Except for the council. The council is out there still.
Yeah, they're fucking around. Who the hell knows what their deal is?
Sure.
Okay. This whole time I was like, oh, that's a plot that hasn't been resolved, but it absolutely has when Edward tore her fucking neck open.
Right. It also is so ancillary to the story that you didn't remember it.
Yeah, exactly. It's the resolution. It's the climax of the previous film.
Right.
And I didn't remember it.
Nah, because it doesn't matter. She never mattered. She was just a MacGuffin.
Yeah.
Just like you're not going to remember these housekeepers either.
Yeah.
Because they're just a MacGuffin. They don't matter.
Well, what is the purpose of them? Because I thought, they're just here for exposition. But then they give very little exposition, and then Edward goes and Googles the rest.
Yes, she should have been the one that says, "You bring child of death," or whatever. You know what I mean? She should have done that, so we get some idea of what the pregnancy is.
It's a wild fucking scene because he's like, imagine thinking there's a demon that you're working for, and first of all, you should get out of that job. Right?
If you can, right? You know,
and then the demon's like, "You got to help me. I knocked this chick up with my demon seed. All right, I'm a demon. Like he just admits to them. He's like, "Look, she's knocked up with my demon seed. What do we do?" And she's just like, "I can't help you, demon. That I a minute ago thought was going to murder me and this woman." It's such a weird, awkward situation.
It's awkward, and it's juicy, but like pointlessly juicy.
Yes,
you know, it doesn't. It's juice we're never going to get to taste. Dave, we're never going to taste that sweet story juice.
No,
Instead, we got this raw bone we got to chew on.
At this point in my notes, I wrote, "I can't believe this is the plot."
Well, and the reason you did that is because again, the pregnancy is actually the inciting incident for the movie,
and it's 50 minutes in.
51 minutes.
Vampire honeymoon abortion, because he calls it an it, and he clearly wants to just rip that baby out of her,
which didn't seem like consistent with his values at all. That seemed like a really big right turn for his values.
Yeah. Again, I don't know if it's a comment on. Is it a comment on conservatism, where it's like the moment it involves his life, his values change?
Well, you'd think, because of course that's definitely true. But I don't think the movie's that thoughtful.
No,
you know, it just seems like the movie was then we're going to do an abortion debate. And I also don't know if it actually did an abortion debate.
No,
because
it did not.
because it didn't answer it.
Also, apparently, ultrasounds can't see inside her, and they can't read her future. No reason why that happens.
Not yet, but we still have one more movie, Dave. I still think but my theory's altered a little bit. So either she's the special boy or she's Mary, Mother of Jesus. Right? I know, man. I really hope she isn't Mary, Mother of Jesus, because that's very disappointing.
Yeah.
If that's because that's
well,
just
her
like
destiny seems to be like I talked previously about the idea of her becoming like a cool motorcycle vampire. She's destined to just shit out this child, and that's it.
Right, and it's like
I keep waiting for her to become a part of the plot.
Yes.
Like stupid Dave was imagining when the werewolves were like, we're going to eat her fetus. And they were having that dog meeting. And then they were going to have the war outside the Cullens house. Stupid Dave was picturing at a point where like Edward almost gets killed. And then the werewolf goes to swipe. And then a hand catches the werewolf. And you cut and it's vampire Bella. And she's like, let's kick some ass. And she jumps in because she's now a vampire.
Right.
Nope.
That's not going to happen.
She doesn't participate in the movie.
Right.
In the conflicts.
I wrote down Stupid Dave as better movies, by the way, that we could be watching.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That was on my list.
So it's still just people fighting over Bella. Every movie is people fighting over Bella.
Right.
And a group wants to kill her and a group wants to save her. And that's it.
This movie is really bad on on feminism. Like, it's just bad on it. It is.
Yes,
it is. And far be it from me to preach at anybody about how a woman should be depicted in film.
I've been painfully self-aware that this movie or this podcast has mainly been two guys talking about what they think this woman should do.
But but again, not as a woman, as a character in a story.
Yes.
Like again, I'm not here to say this is what a woman should be, how they should be depicted in film. It's not my job. But I can tell you, I can say when
we win an award, it's good.
Yeah, good. I can say. I can say when a character lacks agency and when we're reinforcing outdated archetypes.
It definitely has to do with gender, but on the basic movie logic, as someone who just watched a lot of movie, it's like your protagonist isn't doing anything constantly.
Right.
And I can't help but to notice that she's a young woman, and the only people who are active in participating, making decisions, are men. And so it's like it's very telling
to use
the values of the writer.
Right. Again, to use the hero's journey, like one of the reasons why when you read like old and like ancient texts, and for the most part they're not about women, it's because they don't go on the hero's journey. Because they're always ancillary characters. It's what
we're talking about is that the belief structure conflicts with the movie the story they wanted to tell, where they're like, we want it to be about a young woman meeting vampires, but like the woman can't make the decisions.
Right.
Like, well, then you don't have a story. You have to get over that hurdle and have her active in her own story. Good God.
I agree. Now the problem is that I do believe that there are people and women who they do life like this. Like, I think there are people who are doing life this way.
We talked about this in a previous episode where there's nothing wrong with being attracted to someone who's domineering if that's what you're attracted to and you're comfortable with yourself.
Right.
It's just that we don't have enough character here. She's just she's a mannequin. She's a blank slate, this whole movie, who just sort of goes along with... That's, again, the most logical conclusion is that she is under a spell, because she acts like she's under a spell. She doesn't act like her will is her own. She lets everybody around her kind of make decisions. The only decision she's made is that she's keeping this baby.
Right, and that's you've just distilled it perfectly, but like the difference between being under a spell and being a hero in a movie is that the choice is choice. Yeah. If a hero makes a choice, the spell they're under is their want. And we accept that because we understand that as a basic human experience. When they don't make choices, but they just move forward in unmotivated ways, it looks like a spell and we don't understand it.
Right.
Anyway, we've talked about that enough.
Yeah. I want to note they're real lucky that the dad's a doctor, because otherwise they'd have to bring this to a doctor, and that would be a
huge disaster.
Yeah.
They also fly a fucking charter jet home. Did you notice that?
They're stupid rich.
How rich? Yeah, how? How are they so rich?
They're vampire rich.
From what?
From vampire.
So, like, maybe Alice can tell the future, so they bet it all on Apple or some shit, like back in 1985?
They're also 100 years old. They just probably own stock in a lot of things. They've probably murdered rich people and taken their wealth.
I mean, if you have the talent of Alice, like, can you imagine, like, what insider trading even means for a vampire?
Yeah, I go to a casino all the time.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, it would lose its luster after a while, right?
Yeah, it's like an ATM. Anytime you need a couple thousand, you just hit up a casino.
Couple thousand, try again, my dude. I guess you can't win that big because they'll find out about you, right?
Well, yeah, but what are they going to do? Arrest the vampire?
That's not going to go well.
No.
There's, by the way, Vampire Ocean's 11 is another movie we should write down.
Okay, somebody write that down.
Producer, write that down.
Yeah.
So just before we get all the way to Guy's a doctor, the dad, suspecting things are not correct, employs Jacob to find out what's going on. Did you notice that?
I did.
Which, by the way, is another movie I wrote down. Charlie using Were Jacob to solve crimes. An excellent movie.
Well, we talked about the vampire detective where he teams up.
Yes, this one's more interesting in a different way because you have Charlie, this sort of small-town guy, using another small-town kid who turns out as a werewolf to be like just an excellent cop.
Right.
You know, that's kind of a fun movie.
That would be pretty fun.
Yeah, anyway.
I didn't have anything more on the dad doctor. That's it.
I do. He's got all that blood laid aside.
Also, Jacob doesn't report back to Bella's dad.
Right, so like, I guess mission fail there.
Yeah.
Back to base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, what were you going to
say? The doctor dad has like just a lot of blood laid away. And when they find out that he has blood that they can just use to give her to drink, the whole family's kind of like, okay, this is bullshit.
They're like, you're holding out on us. Yeah.
She gets to drink blood. What the fuck,
because they're talking about hunting and shit earlier.
Right.
And it's like, you had blood this whole time, motherfucker.
When they go hunting, by the way, that's how you know that they've depleted all the good animals, because they have to go into the werewolf territory to hunt.
You're right.
That's why. That's how you know.
Another movie is just those animals, their point of view.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. What's it like for a deer just in a vampire werewolf world? It's a collision of titans. I also wrote down Vampire Blood Drive as another movie that would be fun to watch. Just how are they getting that blood? That's a frat comedy. Come on, right?
Oh, 100%. It's the sequel to Vampire Bachelor Party.
Yes, right. It's right. This is when the Bachelor Party went bad. They got to pay back some public damage that they caused. Yep. So they get a blood drive together.
They do a blood drive going. Yeah.
What a great movie. Write that down, producer.
Somebody better be. There's someone's writing it down. I want to talk about her names.
Sure. Oh, Dave. Oh,
if
my
it's a
God.
Boy, she wants to name it EJ or Edward Jacob, which is just
horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible name.
Bella.
I wrote down like, hey, can we get a rewrite on that and just call him Edward James, my dad, Collins, just all the dudes you've loved.
Yes.
Just every dude. Just my dad should be his middle name.
But what was the girl's name? Resume?
Dude, it was Renisme. It was a Brangelina. It was a Brangelina. It was Bennifer.
It's a combination of what names?
Renee and Ismay.
Okay.
And then Edward's like, it's beautiful, and everyone's like, no, it isn't. And then nobody says anything else.
Yeah, you're right.
Edward's like, Edward, bless his heart, is like, no, it's great. You did great. And everyone's like, this is a travesty. This name's horrifying. And I guess it's going in. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
It's like Elon Musk bad. That's like an Elon Musk name. That's how stupid it is.
Yeah, well, it's vampires. It doesn't surprise me. Like, of course vampires have stupid names, right?
I guess. I fucking guess. But, like, like, they could have picked something old-timey, right? I feel like old-timey fits more with vampires. Like a Henry? Like, bring a Henry back.
You could bring a Henry in.
Yeah.
Mix, yeah.
Bring Gail back, you know what I mean? Or, like, Retha or something like that.
Gail's not going anywhere, is it?
Gail's not, dude. You know any kids named Gail? Get out of here.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
You've never met a kid named Gail. That's insane. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot.
They discover that the baby needs blood, which we've already been through.
They did. Correct. By the way, sister, there was a scene with Jacob where he decides he's going to watch over them to protect them from the werewolves. Right.
Right.
And they had. So this is when like the other two. He has a moment
with the sister where I was like, I feel like they might bone.
Yes, she's clearly being set up as a substitute. That's correct.
Yeah.
She is not a good actor, or her acting here is bad.
I was going to say, how can you tell in this movie? How can you tell?
I would say a lot of the acting, I believe the decisions that are being made, like they're making emotional decisions that I believe.
Right.
Right. That's like, whereas she is not. She is trying to feel the feelings, and she can't. That's how I decide it.
I have said it before. I think Robert and Kirsten are doing a good job with what they need to be doing.
He is much more consistent than she is at this point. But she also has the stupidest part in the world, so I don't know what to say.
Right.
You know, I don't blame her for it.
So the doctor goes out to hunt.
Well, he goes out to raise blood. He's doing a blood drive. To get more blood.
So that creates a situation where Bella starts having the baby. Cronenberg moment. They hand her this cup of blood, and her back twists.
Yeah, that was fucking crazy.
Yeah, that was fucked up.
I'm sorry, Dave. I got to drag us one more step back. I apologize.
Okay.
So when she drinks the blood, there's a moment where she drinks the blood. Everybody looks at her, and then she goes, "Oh, this tastes." And then like we wait for a long time, and she says, "Good." And I was like, dude, this is where we should have had 1,000 jokes. Like, this is like, if you're doing the sketch of this, you just show all the different things she could say instead of good.
Right. And again, that's how they know it's working for some reason.
Right.
That doesn't make no sense.
Totally stupid. But like, can you just imagine she drinks it? Oh, this tastes like chicken. This tastes. And then just keep going through them, dude. Like, they're all fucking, like, there's no wrong answer. It's funny every time.
Yeah,
I wrote like 100 of them down.
Your pee? And he's like, oh yeah, it's my pee. It's a little vampire prank.
Right. Oh, this tastes like syrup. You know what I mean? It's like anything's good there. We'll keep going. That's it.
So having the baby is pretty easy. Edward just bites her open.
It wasn't clear to me exactly what that was supposed to be. So is he not clamping? Is he not chewing off the umbilical cord?
Maybe. I wrote vampire C-section because I couldn't figure out what was happening because the movie isn't showing it. Is that
they didn't even number up.
They're like, no, they give her morphine, and then he's like, we have to wait for the morphine. They're like, no time. These two young men who have no medical experience,
right,
perform a C-section on Bella. No wonder she died.
No kidding.
They killed her.
Kidding.
It's my God.
It's very dark, and it's kind of a left turn, even though she looks like she has like a grave illness.
They clearly thought it was important that Jacob and Edward deliver the baby, and I'm not sure why.
Oh, you know why? Because there's a great dramatic irony.
Yeah, then they should have just had it like normal baby delivery. Not C-section, because I get the idea they do it in sitcoms and stuff where it's like, we're having this baby in the cab, and then the husband has to deliver the baby or something. But it's never a C-section.
It's not treated like it's a horror movie, which is how it would feel.
Yeah, and to be very frank, if I had to deliver a baby suddenly, I would never be bold enough to call C-section. Can you imagine? Like being like not a doctor and we have to have this baby and like being a pregnant woman and hearing the guy delivering the baby go, I have to cut you open. It's like, I'm sorry. What? Like you're like not a doctor. Not a doctor.
You at least have to give a 3-sentence reason. Like that's just minimum. That's
like
minimum
he doesn't
rules.
even know. How does he know a C-section is necessary?
And because like I was actually kind of surprised that the baby turned out to be human. You know what I mean? Like I was like,
well, was it human? Did you see that face?
Oh, dude!
Did you see that face?
I laughed for I paused the movie and laughed for 2 minutes when I saw the face.
That was fucking incredible.
It was. still good. It was so bad that I laughed. But I was like, just briefly, I was very disappointed to see the baby didn't have like fucking wings or something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it needed them. It was like, why didn't the baby have some crazy
even less of a vampire, right? It's a vampire hybrid, which I imagine will be a problem in the next one.
My theory is that
I think it's the MacGuffin, ultimately.
Yes, correct. They're going to try to steal the special baby. This is when we're going to find out that Kristen Stewart finally does something, and she's a special girl.
Don't overestimate. Maybe she might do nothing in the next movie.
I mean, I know.
She might
maybe won't do anything.
We'll see.
Yeah, I think
she might be a vampire with super strength who just stays at home while Edward goes and fights stuff. It's going to be them like, they're trying to kill you again, Bella and your baby. You need to hide in our house, and we'll team up with the werewolves and fight them. Movie over.
Just briefly, did Twilight become popular before the entire series was written? Do you know that?
I don't know. So, all I know is that they literally, the most they've ever changed the plot is they put her in a tent once. They're like, you're hiding in a tent this time. But every movie is her hiding inside while a bunch of people fight to protect her.
Yeah. Right. I can see that. Okay, yeah, she hasn't been active yet, so maybe being active is too much to expect. I do think we're going to find out she's a special girl, though, because they've been very consistent
sure hope
on...
So.
Well, it can't be just because she's the mother of Jesus.
I think the idea is that since they were like, vampire pregnancy, this never happened. I assume it's because she has some weird vampire immunity that we know about, where she can't read mind, or she can't have her mind read, and the powers don't work on them. That's why she can also get pregnant.
My fingers are crossed for she is a different thing and not entirely human.
Maybe.
That's my fingers are crossed for that. It would make a lot of things make more sense in this series.
Yeah.
You know?
So she dies from botched surgery by two almost teenagers, two dudes with no medical background who decide to do a C-section. She dies, and then Jacob's like, I told you so. He's not even mourning her. He's like, yeah. He's just like happy to be right. And he's like, I knew this was going to end this way. And it's like, yeah, I mean, if you perform surgery on her, yeah.
Right. Everybody quits on her life very quickly, by the way. Nobody like really checks to make sure.
No.
You know, like the werewolf who tells the other werewolves who come to attack just sees a facial expression of Jacob. Doesn't even see the dead corpse himself.
Right.
Like, hey man, do better at recon? You know? I don't know. What do I know? I'm just watching Twilight for a living.
It's not your entire job.
Right. This is right. It's only a part of my living.
So the werewolves want to eat the baby.
I guess.
Outside.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah, they want to eat the baby, right? That is what they want to do, right?
They think the baby is dangerous, and they don't fully explain why.
Well, and they also didn't fully explain what happened with Jacob until the moment that the conflict was over. Thank God Edward was there to explain a fundamental fact about these beings we didn't understand until that moment.
Wait, what?
Yeah, okay, so like, all right. So when the vampires get there to fucking eat the baby, Jacob has been imprinted, right? He's been imprinted, which I know we're going to talk about. Great.
Yes, I know we're going to talk about that as well.
We have to, right? So he's been imprinted by the baby with the magic face. So he jumps out, rips off his clothes. By the way, everybody learned how to wear shirts in this movie. I kind of appreciated that.
They did. It was weird.
It was weird. Although this movie made sure to tell us they rip their clothes every time they turn into wolves. Okay, good to know. So he turns into a wolf, and Edward's like, no, see, he's been imprinted, and now the wolves can't attack it because they all have to honor the imprint. A thing that's like, how did he know that, and who's he explaining that to?
Right.
And okay, I guess the movie's over. You know what I mean? Like that was it. It was weird.
Okay, yeah, that was new, right? That rule.
I mean, it had to be new because they didn't explain it to us. Like they felt the need to explain it to us, so it was.
Yeah, they just said they can't attack an imprinted. let's talk about the imprinting. So Jacob walks into the room.
Yes.
First thing we learn is apparently imprinting isn't voluntary.
No, it just happens to you. Like
we
a fever.
also know that you see their life when you imprint.
I guess that's what happens, and then like they have a monologue explaining this isn't sexual. It's like a brother. It's like a friend or a brother.
When do they explain that?
What's that?
When do they explain that?
They explain it as he's seeing it. We're hearing a monologue of you'll be anything. You'll be anything.
Yeah, it's
like
Jacob
a brother
talking.
or a friend.
I blacked out.
Oh, of course.
Because I was like, what the fuck is happening? Did he so horrified by this CGI face, this ghoul face, that it's just he's gone into like inside of himself.
Right. And I had dumb convulsions. I got dumb chills that went into convulsions, so I didn't remember it either.
Yeah.
I totally understand.
He walks up, he imprints the baby involuntarily, and until that moment, my understanding was imprinting was it was a mate situation. It was sex. It was a relationship.
They went so hard on that, and the only metaphor for it was Jacob's feelings for Bella. It was the only way we understood it.
And all of a sudden, he wants to fuck this baby.
Right, exactly. That's exactly what it is. And the movie knew it was a problem, so they gave us this monologue that none of us understood.
That felt like it was added later. Yeah, they were like, the test audiences were like, does he want to fuck that baby? And they're like, we didn't think about this. And maybe in the book, they didn't explain it either. It's like they were like, shit, we have to do something here. And so, yeah, I liked the idea of what they were trying to do. They could have executed it better.
It was the one moment that was like, if they had done a nice job, this would have been a great twist in the movie's franchise.
Right. If they had set up imprinting as not a sexual thing, it was like, oh, of course he imprints on the baby, then he protects it. If they showed an imprinting process where it was like two werewolves have a kid together and they imprint on the kid or something.
Right. It's like
we see that they honor it.
If it was like Harry Potter's wand, you know what I mean? If it was like the wands in Harry Potter where it's like the wand chooses you, Harry.
Right.
You know? If it was like that, it would have been perfect.
But it wasn't like that. No. But Jacob imprints on the baby and they're like he's imprinted on it. Edward should have been like, ew, what the fuck, man? Because he doesn't know what imprinting is either, I'm sure. They're just like, what did you do? Did you pee on the baby? What is that? What did you do to my baby, you freak? Yeah.
Edward should have taken Jacob aside and been like, listen, man, as one guy who's got a problem with people who aren't minors or who are minors, as one guy to another who's got a problem with minors,
right.
What you're doing's more fucked up.
That's what I was thinking too, is they're like, oh, you think Edward's a pervert? Wait till you hear about what Jacob does. It's so unsettling.
Yeah, right. They need a support group for sure. They're in trouble.
Yeah.
They're in a lot of trouble. Yeah.
So Bella, they think she might come out of it. They're like, she's been bitten.
I couldn't figure out how they determined that.
Yeah, they seem to think she's still hanging on.
But it was like, how? Like they had said before that, like, hey, man, it might not be enough to bring you back. I assume Father Doctor showed up and was like, what did you guys do? And like checked her vitals and was like, oh, she's still got a pulse. Okay, all right. It would have been nice for the movie.
I think they performed a dummy scene. It's the scene in Basketball where they think the person's dead because it's a slapstick comedy, and they go out of their way and perform like they do the zappers on them. And the joke is that they're not doctors; they don't know what they're doing.
Right. Of course.
I feel like it's that where they're like, "We're losing her, C-section. Oh, she's dead." And then the dad comes home and she's like, "What did you do? She's not dead. You cut her open? She could have just delivered the baby. What the fuck, guys?"
Yeah, this is why you use the cell phone. They're like, cell phone? You know? And then they learn.
So they put her in a recovery gown, a recovery dress. They're like, she might get out of this. Let's clean her up, make her look presentable.
But it seemed, okay, so again, it was a mislead because it seemed like for a brief moment they were suggesting that she died because they put her in funeral clothes. I think that's what they were
trying to.
But it was confusing because nobody was acting like she was dead. They were just doing the dead stuff.
You're right. It felt like they were trying to mislead us, but they weren't in the conversation. They were like, she's fine. Right. She could make it out. But they put her on like a slab in the middle of the room like she's like an hors d'oeuvre.
Yes.
And they put her in the dress, and it's like, give her a private room. Like, put her in a regular bed. They put her on a fucking weird slab in a dress, and it's like, is this how vampires think humans recover from surgery?
I'm going to tell you right now, dude, there's nothing private in that home.
No.
I
think the idea is they're like, either she dies or she becomes a vampire, so she's going to want to look nice when she wakes up, if she wakes up.
Yeah. You think they're just sitting there with their blood popcorn, just like watching?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Popping it in, just like, this is going to be something. This is going to be something.
And then we get the ending of Avatar. It zooms in on her eyes. They telegraph the eyes because they show her from the side, right?
Right.
And what you could do is in that shot, her eyes open and the movie ends. But then the camera starts slowly moving over her eyes. And it's like, well, you're only doing that to show her opening her eyes. Like the trope and then their eyes open, which is already so tired, is dependent on a shot of a character that you think is dead.
Yes, correct.
But when the camera starts going to their eyes before that happens, then you already know their eyes are going to open because it's a trope. But when it especially does that, it's like the filmmakers are like, look, we all know what's going to happen, so we might as well set up the shot to the eyes.
Yeah, yada, yada, this happens.
Yeah.
What would have happened if they went to the eyes and then they just didn't open? Would that have been interesting to you?
It would have been better.
But see, I think then people would have been like, what the fuck, man? You know what I mean? Like, they would have been mad, right?
Right, but it's a better cliffhanger. It's the because we know she's going to become a vampire.
Well, it's the only thing we've been talking about for 4 movies now, so...
Right.
I feel like we should have done all the... Like, I feel like this moment, her becoming a vampire, should have happened at the end of 3. You know what I mean?
I think you're right, but I think they were just like, we don't have enough to fill. They clearly don't have enough content.
No. I think how many books were there? 4?
I assume.
Yeah. I mean, it's very clear they did the Harry Potter thing where they're like, we could make 2 movies out of the last book.
How long were the books?
I don't know. I mean, the movies are pretty well paced in the sense that they're all under 2 hours and they don't feel rushed.
The movies do they don't feel rushed. They don't feel, but like 40 minutes to get to her being pregnant. And like all the movies are this, where it's like, I do get the sense that these books were very short. And then they're like, okay, can we get like 15 minutes off baseball? Yeah, let's get 15. You know, like it feels like they stretched it.
This was a disaster as its own movie. It was not a good its own movie.
Didn't need to be 2 parts.
No, absolutely not. They like most of that honeymoon anxiety stuff sent the wrong message anyway.
I think what happened is a lot of movies, when they get split up, they're like, there's just too much. We have to split it up.
Sure.
I think this one, they were like, we want to have it end on her becoming a vampire because that's a good hook. And they're like, but there isn't enough. And they're like, that's okay. Let's make the honeymoon 40 minutes long.
I mean, or they just like, we're not going to cut anything out from the book. Everything in the book's going to be in this movie. That's my guess.
Yeah.
Right? Because, like, for instance, when they split the last Harry Potter book into 2 movies, it made perfect sense because the books were very long. Like, that book was very long.
It's the opposite. The cliffhanger isn't great in the Harry Potters, but they knew they needed to. This one, I think they do have a good cliffhanger moment. That's a good moment to end the film. But, like, I'm actually shocked that happens halfway through the book, if it does.
Yes, I don't understand that either, which tells me that her becoming a vampire is not the end of her transformation.
Yeah, right? You're right. It seems like a moment that's meant for the end, but everything before it didn't feel conclusive.
And that's why it doesn't feel conclusive that she became a vampire. It's like, okay, so you know what I mean? Like, I don't mean to be shitty about it. It's just like
no, it's that they know there's a cliffhanger. It reminds me of J.J. Abrams and the first Star Wars, which is that he ends it on her seeing Luke Skywalker and him not saying anything, and it's clear that J.J. didn't know what was going to happen next.
Right, exactly.
Because he doesn't write. He's not a good writer. And so he just ended it there, and everybody's like, ooh. But it's like, it's just a scene. Like, he literally just cuts off a scene and makes you feel like it's a cliffhanger, but it's not. He just ended a scene prematurely.
Especially considering what he did in the actual scene.
Well, that's what I was going to say. What I always found interesting is that Rian Johnson then continues the scene, and he starts the scene by Luke Skywalker taking the lightsaber, throwing it over his shoulder.
Perfect ending.
And that's such a better ending.
Yes,
and
great
it's clear
ending.
that J.J. Abrams didn't want to commit to anything. He didn't know what was going to happen. That would have been the cliffhanger, is Luke Skywalker tossing the fucking lightsaber away.
This is why like I'm
and
fundamentally
this felt like the same, where they're like, and her eyes open. Ooh, like
right. I'm fundamentally opposed to the idea of franchises like already being greenlit.
Just franchises, yeah.
Well, like so because they make for bad middle installments. You know,
yes.
Like I think every movie in a franchise needs to fight to be a movie.
Well, look at Avengers. That was the roughest point with the Avengers is Age of Ultron, where nothing matters.
No,
like,
nothing matters.
They're just like spinning their wheels. They're like, and here's another one, and it's like, cool, man. I mean, I'm waiting for the third one, so whatever.
They did pretty good with the Avengers, considering that. Because how many were there? 6?
Avengers, like the main films?
Yes, thank you for yawning that question at me, Dave.
Sorry, I'm a little seepy.
I understand.
I'm a seepy boy.
Dude, and you've earned it because you've been working so hard.
There's the first Avengers, Age of Ultron, and then Infinity War, and then Endgame. There's 4.
No, Winter Soldier is an Avengers movie, isn't it?
No, you are
Civil War.
You are
Civil War.
misinformed. Nope, that's a Captain America.
I thought Civil War was an Avengers movie, dude.
Captain America.
I'm looking this up. This is worth
America.
Okay, I believe you. I'm just going to look it up. That's all.
Civil War. You certainly can't understand the other movies without knowing
right.
Civil War.
It is Captain America.
I think they like introduced it as like Secret War or something, and then they like were like, no, it's Civil War, motherfuckers, slam dunk, and they sort of needed to do it.
Because you were correct about this, Dave, I will be sending you 1 vial of my blood. It is now yours. Yeah, you're welcome.
I will make many atoms with it.
Oh, making more of me, which is what you would do with my blood? That's nice.
Mm-hmm. To fight you.
Is that you've been longing for it?
They'd be atoms, but they'd be under my control. They would be subservient to my wishes.
But then what you've done is you've broken the fundamental atom core. What you'd have is husks, Dave. You wouldn't have the real me.
Yeah, I just want some husks. Well, I wouldn't strive to have the real you. Well, all right, I would want the real you, and then I would break you down, like emotionally, so that you, like it's like Star Trek Nemesis, where Picard meets his clone, but his clone has lived a very different life than his. So Picard has to face the idea of like, if I had lived his life, would I have been a terrorist?
Well, I have to,
and I would make you wonder that about yourself.
I have to appreciate the fact that out of all the Star Treks, you picked the one you knew I hadn't watched.
Star Trek Nemesis, starring Tom Hardy as Picard's clone.
Yeah, so thank you for already trying to...
We should watch that. It's Friday. We have Friday night movies. We should watch Star Trek Nemesis.
Yeah, so I like the presumption that you think you can break me mentally. I respect that. And I'm going to give you, because of that, I'm going to give you an insight into what it would take. What it would take, Dave, is to find out that all of our podcasts here had been erased. Can you imagine if we had to do it over?
None of them
Holy
mattered.
shit.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Can you imagine if we had to do this again?
What?
Can you imagine if we had to do this over? Like we committed to this idea and did it over?
Oh, are you kidding me? I've done this. This has happened to me one time. I was recording a Best Bad movie.
Okay.
With Sandra.
Yeah.
About fucking God damn it! What's the movie called? Streets of Fire.
I'll believe you. I don't know.
With Willem Dafoe.
Doesn't strike a chord for me.
It's it doesn't matter. And Rick Moranis.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was a movie, and
sure.
Fucking, it was so boring. It was one of my least favorite episodes.
Wow.
And or it was my least favorite. Sorry, it was one of my least favorite movies. And we recorded the whole thing, And we stopped, and Adam said, I wasn't recording. Other Adam.
Adam Todd Brown?
The clone.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Adam Prime.
Yeah. And so it was horrifying.
Yeah.
It was the worst feeling because it was the realization of like, well, she's here. We have
to do it.
We have to do it over.
We have to do it. Yeah.
And so we started from the fucking beginning, and it was like immediately doing it again. You have to like pretend to be surprised when people say
that's the nightmare.
Stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the nightmare. Because, we all come prepped with...
I was looking up, it was 2018 with Sandra Sorensen. And Streets of Fire. Listen to the episode, and you'll listen to the voices of people who are trying really hard not to sound like their soul was being crushed. Because, again, here's the worst part. Adam, here's the worst part.
I'm ready, Dave.
Thank you. When you do it, you make jokes. You make observations that you're like, that was really good. And then when you learn it's not recorded, you're like, well, I have to do it again. And you feel like a hack.
Yeah.
Because
like, that's what a hack does.
Jokes that were spur of the moment jokes that were like, oh, what a cool Sunday. Yeah, it's the worst. Sorry. You really sparked something in me, the thought of us having to do this again.
I love this.
I would just jump in. I would just jump in a fire. I'd just set myself on fire.
Would you? See, now I don't think that would even kill you. I really don't.
No,
just scars. Just scars. I agree. It would be pretty rough to do this twice because we're already at this point.
Is this your way of telling me that you accidentally stopped recording? Is this what?
No, can you imagine
putting out feelers and you're like, okay, so I have some news based off your reaction. I don't know if.
Listen, like let me just start this compliment sandwich with Dave. You're very handsome. Always been handsome. I've always thought that. And forgot to record, and you're a good guy. Can you imagine? That'd be the worst fucking thing in the world. How much do you like these other movies? Do you like these other movies?
He imprinted on that baby.
Oh, fuck yeah, he did.
That baby didn't even have a choice. Okay, sorry.
No, it's creepy. It is
that
creepy.
Baby is born with a weird dude imprinted on him. That baby is born into hell. Pure hell.
Well, and that's not the guy I would choose to imprint on me.
This weird bro who's going to be like, I just want to look out for you. What's up? And then, of course, like there's got to be a sexual aspect to it. It's like definitely an infatuation and an obsession, right? And it's it's just that kid has a built-in weird uncle.
Yep.
Who's like,
that's the idea.
Clearly going to be leering at the kid's mom all the time.
Yeah, and then one day transfer.
She gets old enough, going to be leering at her.
Yep, that's what he's going to do, 100%.
Yeah, and going to be like, I'll do anything for you.
Right. Plus, what if he became a cop? What if Charlie took him under his wing and he became a cop? Wouldn't that freaking you out? That would freak you out, right?
Yeah.
That would freak me out. Yeah,
Werewolf
that'd be dark. Well,
Wolf Cop is, I think, a movie, by the way. But
Werewolf Cop's fantastic. Write that down, producer.
No, it's called Wolf Cop. It's a real movie.
Oh, it's a real movie.
Yeah, Wolf Cop. Am I making that up? I've seen that. I've watched that.
I don't know. If you're thinking of K911, that's a movie.
No. Wolf Cop is it's about a cop who becomes a werewolf. It's a great movie. Look it up. When the first time he transforms, he's at a urinal, and the shot he transforms dick first.
It shows his dick?
Yeah. It shows his dick turn into werewolf dick. It's dick first werewolf transformation, which this movie does not have the guts to do.
No, but that is where you think the transformation would start.
Dick first, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
They make a face like their dicks hurt every time. It would have been, how awesome would have it been if it was an American Werewolf in London style transformation every time? Where every time they're like, werewolves assemble, and then they all just fall on the floor and go, and like slowly rip apart.
Especially by the fourth movie where you're bored of it, and yet the movie's
just
not. Yeah.
The vampires have to stand around and wait when they're all fighting together. They're like, just give me a... oh, God.
Yeah, I would have enjoyed that. Mm-hmm. There's not enough pain in this movie, really.
You know what had the best werewolf transformation? And I don't even remember the name of the stupid show. What's the stupid show, Adam?
Fuck it, Dave. Why the fuck would you ask me that?
It's got like it's got a dumb. It's like a stupid show. Hold on, I'm googling.
Is it a CW show?
Stupid show werewolf transformation.
Dude, I honestly couldn't tell you. Is it? There's no werewolves in True Blood, right?
I don't. It's definitely not True Blood.
By the way, True Blood is definitely better than this. No question. True Blood is no question
better.
What
is True Blood on?
True Blood's on HBO. It's by Alan Ball, the writer of American Beauty and also of that fantastic show, 6 Feet Under.
Yeah, it's the writer of 6 Feet Under. Yeah, that's got to be great. I should watch True Blood.
Yeah, I told you this, bro. I've been trying to help. I've been trying to improve your life the whole time, and you've been a slow little bastard.
I don't have enough time. There's no time anymore.
You say that, and yet here we are giving 2-hour episodes of Twilight. Nobody asked for it.
Okay.
No, I don't want to stop. I want to keep talking.
I'm going to tell you the transformation, and people will be able to know. It's like a gothic show that was probably on Netflix.
Okay.
And it's it's a literal dog, and it tears out of their body, and then it eats their flesh. So it's them, but like their face tears open, and a dog's face bursts out.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then it just goes, ooh, a meal. Like it's every time it gets a little meal. It's Hemlock Grove. I believe it's Hemlock
Grove. Oh yeah,
I only saw one episode of that show because I didn't like it. But the one thing I liked about it was the werewolf transformation. I was like, I've never seen that before, and it was cool. That also, I would have accepted the werewolves tearing out of their flesh and then eating the leftover skin. Why didn't they do that?
I don't know, because it is sort of circle of life to eat the husk of your former body.
That's what we all do,
Right. It's right. Every time I grew over a summer, I ate the entirety of my former body.
Eat the leftovers, yeah.
Yeah, that's what you do. That's how you get stronger.
That's how you get big and strong.
Yeah. That's how I got this big and this strong.
You ate all the previous Adams.
There's so many gone. That's why
what
I can't have you cloned.
What if I cloned you and then I fed you to you without telling you?
I feel like it's hard to get offended by that because the rules with clones are essentially fight or have sex with. Therefore, feeding, what you've done is you've broken the loop, Dave. You've done me a favor, really.
You say fight or have sex, but I would also put eat on that.
No, but I'm saying eat isn't
on that.
Don't you want to know
what your flesh tastes like, Adam?
No. No. Have you? Do you know? Do you know what that is, Dave?
I would want to know what my flesh tasted like.
Sure. Who wouldn't?
Yeah. I don't know if I'd take my own clone's life, but if I found my clone already dead, I might carve off a piece.
Just to see? Do you cook it or not? Do you cook it or do you leave it uncooked?
Well, I don't normally eat meat, so I probably would have to cook it.
I think you'd have to cook it anyway.
It's going to make my tummy hurt either way.
Yeah, eating uncooked meat is a different problem than eating human meat.
It depends, I guess, on how much PCP I was on, like where I was, what was going on. Because like part of me would want to eat it raw because that's cooler, right?
I mean, it's
better cred. Like if people were watching, I'd probably eat it raw.
Cred. Like I love the idea that there are people like, listen. Did you hear what Dave did? He ate his whole body raw.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, he did it raw? That's fucking Dave, right?
Yeah,
and then they high five for a year.
If people were watching, if it was people like peer pressure situation where people were like, eat your corpse. Eat your corpse. And they're like, oh, bro, he did it. He ate his corpse. Like, I would have to do it raw. But like, honestly, if I were alone with my clone's corpse, I would eat it.
By the way, Vampire Frat, that just made me think of the movie idea, Vampire Frat, another thing.
All right. So the first one's Vampire Frat. The second one is Vampire Bachelor Party. It's like the American Pie rules.
Yes.
Yes. And then Vampire Blood Drive.
Yeah.
And vampire retirement home. Don't even know how that works because they're vampires.
Yeah.
Maybe they're all Nosferatus, like they've lived for like 6,000 years.
It could be that
they're like crumbly, and they're like Lestat in Interview with the Vampire when he's afraid of the helicopter.
Or what if there's like a whole subset of vampires that got turned when they were 80? Mm-hmm. From some perv vampires just turning a bunch of...
Definitely a perv vampire did that.
Yeah, perv vampires going in, turning a bunch of 80-year-olds into vampires, and they're like stuck forever at 80. That's a really interesting group of people.
Yeah.
Right? Because they don't feel better instantly, do they?
I think they would.
Okay, they do.
I think the idea... I mean, Bella was a corpse.
Yes, and they turn it right, and she returns to normal body. I noticed that.
I think they would still look their age, but they would be the healthiest version of themselves.
Right, they'd be like Anthony Hopkins in Mask of Zorro, where he's like just teeming with life and long hair.
You brought that up because that's a movie I just watched.
Me too, and in fact, I'm doing a director piece on it. I am.
Really?
Yes.
We just did a duology theater about it.
Oh, did you? Fantastic.
That's great.
That's
coming
so good.
out.
Yeah.
It already came out. Both of these podcasts we speak of might have already come out.
Director piece probably isn't coming out, and I'm sorry I spoiled it for the people who stayed after the 2-hour mark. But also
for Tom who definitely listens.
Yeah, Tom who definitely listens. But also, this is a gift to the people who really care about Guylight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because people who are staying in after the 2-hour mark on Ep 4 of Guylight, those are the people who, that's the people whose blood I want to taste.
Oh, yeah. Let's do the math, Adam. So the first episode was 2 hours.
Right.
I got my calculator out. 2 hours.
Thank you.
Then the next was 2 hours and 30 minutes. So plus 2.5. The next one was about 2 hours and 40 minutes. I'm going to round it down. Yeah, I'm going to round it down to 2 hours and 30. So
how did we do that?
2.5.
How did we do that?
That's 7 hours.
Wow.
Plus 2, where we're at now, but we might go longer. So that's 9 hours. That's 9 hours.
It's a gift.
So all in all, this will probably be a 12-hour podcast.
I think it's possible. The last movie has to be pretty good. Right?
Yeah.
To justify a 3-hour podcast.
Well, it's about a 10 hours worth of movie.
Wait, how long is the last movie?
I don't know. I assume it's 2 hours.
They've all been about 2 hours.
5 movies, so it's 10 hours.
Let's look at the runtime of the last movie really quick while we're here.
Why don't we Google stuff for a while?
We can.
I don't give a shit.
I think the rule is don't cut anything out. I think that's the rule, right?
That's the rule.
Yeah. I mean, so...
yeah. Unless we say something that'll get us arrested, but
right. And you're the only one talking about eating human flesh, so you're the standard bearer.
But it's my clone, Adam. That always boggled my mind in the Prestige. Spoilers for the Prestige. Like, he didn't eat a single clone. That's how you hide the evidence. You eat the clone afterwards. You drown it. You take that tank. You put it over a stove. You boil yourself up. You got yourself a nice boiled clone. You cut it into slices and you eat it. That's your meal. That's your meals for a week.
So that really asks. I'm serious. Wait. So like, no hyperbole. How much do you judge Rick from Rick and Morty for killing all of his other Ricks? Do you think it matters at all?
Okay, my thoughts on cloning.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I want.
By David Bell. All right, here we go.
Holy shit! Buckle up. Here we go.
I'm not sure. I believe in the soul in the sense that I believe in consciousness, that everything's conscious.
Everything's conscious? Everything? Chairs?
Yeah, sure. No, so you're everything organic, I would say, has some sort of consciousness.
So you're like an Aristotle type. Like Aristotle kind of believed in the soul of all things.
Well, here's my reasoning for it.
Sure.
I wasn't raised religious.
Right.
But I was always raised moral, and my general belief is that treat everything as if it's yourself, as if it's a living, breathing, anything organic. Treat it like it has as much of whatever you call a soul as you do, as much as possible.
As much as you.
Yeah,
so like it's all the same amount of soul.
Why take the risk? If you treat everything. It's the golden rule. If you treat everything the way you'd want to be treated, Obviously, I'm not perfect, so I'm sure I've been a real dick to people. But generally speaking, if you treat animals and plants even and insects that way, then you can't go wrong, right? It doesn't matter what you believe happens. It doesn't matter what you believe morality is. As long as you just treat things with respect, you're probably fine. I know that's really simplistic because people can be sociopaths or raised to not, but it's like just treat everything assuming that I treat everything assuming that when you get to the if there's an afterlife, it's run by that thing.
Oh, okay. So everything is God in the judgment sense.
Yeah.
That's an interesting theory.
I say all of this knowing that it's both preachy and not what I actually do.
Right. The problem with morality is that nobody lives up to their morals.
We were talking about clones.
No, we're getting there though, because it's a moral question.
My point being that if I clone myself, I would think of it as just another entity, right? Honestly, I aside from the eating yourself talk, like I said, if I found a dead clone, then I'd eat it because what does it matter?
Right.
What does it care?
Right. But do you think that honoring a person's body, in their memory, matters at all?
Who gives a fuck?
Yeah, I think I agree with you there.
Yeah, but that's why I would eat it.
Yeah.
I like the idea of honoring I lost a friend a couple years ago at this point, and at the funeral we did things that we knew that person would enjoy. Music that they would enjoy, which they liked 80s hair metal. So guess what's playing at their funeral? And it was awesome. It's the idea of I like honoring the memory of someone, regardless of whether or not I think their ghost is watching. It's just, what else are you going to do? It's when people die, it affects the living more than anything. So it's do the thing that you feel like respects that person and honors them, which is me saying that if someone finds my body, they should eat it.
Because that would, so you would like the...
And so if I found my own clone body, I would know that my clone self would be perfectly fine with me consuming its flesh. And it would, in fact, enjoy that fact.
So the eating stuff is... I have less questions about the eating stuff.
What about you? Wait, sorry. This is too much on me. Would you eat your dead clone's body?
I don't to be honest with you, I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters if I eat the body. But if I just don't know why I'm eating a person. Why am I doing that? Am I hungry enough? Is that the idea? Is it alive? Is it am I trapped in a mountain somewhere?
Right.
If I had to eat it, then I'd have absolutely no moral compunction about it at all.
Right.
I wouldn't kill the clone. I think that would be wrong. That's where I think
I generally try not to kill things.
Yeah. I think me and Rick part ways in the I wouldn't kill a clone. But I also wouldn't. Oh yeah,
that was the question, wasn't it? Would you kill your clone?
Yes, Dave.
Yeah, and the answer is no. I wouldn't. I wouldn't actually kill my clone because I would consider it unless my clone was trying to kill me.
Which is very likely.
Yeah, unless it was an act of passion. I would kill a clone the same way I might kill anything, which is to say I right now believe I won't kill anything, but if a clone came in and killed my family, maybe I'd kill that clone because I'd be mad at it.
But that's vengeance. Yeah, that's a vengeance issue.
Yeah, that's not a clone. I wouldn't see a clone and go, "Oh, sweet, I'm going to kill it."
Right. It's not a free person to kill. Right, that's the thing, and that's the thing about Rick and Morty.
It's not a freebie.
Right, Rick and Morty treats it like a freebie. I totally agree with that. So, I had been toying with this.
I think Rick thinks of it like a freebie because that's who Rick is.
I agree. Yes, I totally agree. So I've been toying with this script idea. And that's not what I want to talk about. I'm just bringing it up because it's ancillarily related. Sure. Where a person from an alternate timeline, right? So it's in a multiverse, visits a past version of himself. And I realized that once you introduce time travel into a multiverse, it just becomes kind of dumb.
Sure.
It's really hard to do both of those things. I understand why Rick and Morty is no, you can't do time travel and multiverse. It's one or the other. I
enjoyed that they are time travel's bullshit because it could be Well,
I think if you can move into a parallel dimension, right? like if that can be true, then I still think that like the concept of tearing a hole in a dimension, it's weird that you have to go only horizontally when you're tearing a hole.
Well, that's one of the theories. That's the Back to the Future theory, is that you're not going back in time. You're going to an alternate dimension in the past where you were always there at that point. It was never changed. That's one version. That's the version of time travel where you don't cause a paradox. You're constantly, every time you go back in time, you're not actually going back to your past. You're going back in time to somebody else's past where that always happened.
Is that what they don't say that in Back to the Future, do they?
Well, they imply it because Doc Brown talks about how Biff created an alternate timeline. It's
Oh, he does say that.
He says where it splits off here. So there's two timelines. But they don't, I think that's why they kind of fuck that up, because then they do the thing where people are vanishing, and that doesn't work in that theory.
Correct.
But it's Back to the Future. They're just playing it real fast and loose with time travel, I think.
Well, you basically have to, because like your whole idea of like torturing a body in a time traveling thing, right? That was your idea from like one of those podcasts. And
no,
like we were talking about
Looper's idea.
Well, that's what I mean. Yeah, I was going to say Looper did that, right? Where it's like, but like, I feel like
my idea was, I think, body switching, body torture, right? Where you body swap with someone and they torture their body. That's your body.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was the idea.
And I bet the tangent went to Looper. We're going back and we're trying to track a tangent, which is I do not recommend, sir.
I don't know why you and I fucking do any of the things we do. Let's be honest. Okay,
we finished talking about Twilight 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, but so
we'll come back to it. We'll come back to it.
Of course we will. Of course we.
Sorry. Okay. So what were you talking about? Sorry, I got you off track. Time travel.
Dave, that's all you do. Well, you were asking me what I believed about the soul, and then we got off on the whole thing, and I don't have to talk anymore about the soul. I am not an Aristotelian, though. I don't believe in that. I don't believe everything has consciousness. I believe...
Is that what I am? Is there a name for what I am?
You're sort of an animist. You know, like, there's names. Like
I would also argue that I bet my belief structure changes moment to moment, depending on when you ask me.
Of course.
Like, I don't think about it that much, is really my answer.
Right. And that makes you fairly regular. Like, I think most people are like that.
I think most people are like that, too.
I, as a person who's, like, working inside of an organized religion, I can tell you that, like, and by working, I mean experiencing spirituality and sort of, doing all that way. Like, you do a lot of, you do find that there's kind of fluidity in your emotional experiences to things. And that's kind of why there is an orthodoxy.
Okay.
Right, that's why there is like a book of rules, because people want to kind of go off in different directions all the time.
I think most people are like myself, which is that if you ask them, "Do you think there's a soul?" their answer is like, "I don't know, man. I got shit to do." Where it's like,
I don't think that's true.
Like,
I think
really. I just think, like, what does it matter? I'm going to do the things I do. If religion has taught me anything, watching religion, is that people do what they do regardless of their beliefs.
I think that's absolutely true. I think you just said a core truth.
It's like, what does it fucking matter? I just preached about, I respect everything, but damn fucking well, one day I might hit someone with my car and try to cover it up or something. Who knows what people do? It's you don't know what you're going to do until the moment, and then, like, everybody's a hypocrite, and so it's like, I
mean, you've perfectly articulated a thing that you and I share beliefs about. We actually both believe the same thing about that.
Yeah. My belief is that I'm exhausted, Adam. Is that
you're not exhausted?
No,
you're not exhausted. You as soon as I bring up fucking Super Mario Brothers in the Lighthouse, your boner's gonna go right up. Just like
how do you know I don't have an erection right now, Adam? You can't see.
I mean, I just was hoping you weren't, because we were talking about murder. But what am I doing?
What do you think is propping up this microphone?
I'm really enjoying the way you're craning your neck. If that's what's going on,
it's a real problem.
Yeah, you got a real brontosaurus neck problem if that's the idea.
Okay, hold on. So time travel.
Yeah, I'm sorry. So that script I was talking. So like, the idea was, and like, I really like this idea because it's based on something that happened to my grandparents. And I'll tell a little bit of the story because it's kind of interesting.
Sure.
So like, my grandfather and my grandmother, they're both, they're old now, and they live. So far so good, and they live in Central California, and they're farmers, right? And so there was a moment, and I don't want to share everything about it, but there was a moment where they were at an interesting sort of turning point in their marriage, and I don't want to say more than that. And coinciding with that, my grandmother was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis.
That sucks.
And it does. She actually died of that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
A couple years ago. It's okay. She was one of the most wonderful, joyful people you'd ever meet in your whole life. It was astounding, Dave.
Yeah.
Her joy in the face of the pain that she was living with every day was astounding.
Good on her.
I don't know how she did it. I still don't know how she did it. Mm-hmm. I gripe about fucking everything, so I don't know how she did it.
Oh yeah, I'm a big baby.
Oh, me too. I got a hangnail. I'm like, life.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she, I really liked the idea of like, imagine a world where this old farmer who's like, maybe around the time where that happened, which is, in the 80s sometime.
Right.
Meets an older version of himself who's like, you need to go and live a different life and like leave your wife and do this whole thing because the older one knows what's going to happen, knows how the multiple sclerosis is going to go, like right. knows what the future is. And so like the conflict is like the older self is trying to spare him pain, but is also sort of a bad figure because he's leading him away from being a good man.
Right.
If that makes sense. And I really liked the movie. It was just like, how do I do this without this weird bullshit paradox stuff that I don't care about? And I haven't figured it out yet, so I kind of put it aside.
I kind of don't want to give you this, but I'll be giving everybody it. Because I've always wanted to do a time travel. This isn't something I invented. This is not. I sound like this is like, oh, what an original idea. But okay, this doesn't actually work for your plot because of their occupation. Is that the only time travel that's ever made sense to me theoretically? Is the idea that time travel only lasts. It only exists for the length of which the device exists. And that you can't physically put something back in time. You can communicate through time. And that's how you would do a paradox. Or like you would do it where it's like, it's lake house rules. It's lake house rules. Just do the lake house.
So as long as the
magic
thing
mailbox.
That connects them.
Bam. Magic mailbox. Lake house.
I see. So as long as the thing that connects them exists, then the dynamic happens, and once it goes, it's gone.
This is why it wasn't an original idea, because I just realized what I'm describing is the lake house, which is that the mailbox exists, and the time travel only exists around that mailbox, and all you can do is communicate with yourself. You can't stick your arm through the mailbox.
Right.
It's just I always thought of that in a more scientific version where they create a device. And so the idea is that time travel only exists for as long as the device existed, because that prevents the you would theoretically create a time machine, and then your future self would walk out of it right then and there and go,
right,
it works,
right,
and exactly. It's like, oh, cool, thanks. And they're like, I gotta go smoke drugs, and they're like, you smoke drugs now, and they're like, oh yeah, it's great.
It's the best. Here's the best ones.
Yeah, you want some drugs, and then you give yourself drugs, and then I guess that causes a paradox. I don't know.
See, and I'm obsessed with the idea that I believe most people will do whatever they think they can get away with if they feel sure they can get away with it within reason.
Yeah.
Within reason.
Reason.
Yeah. I don't think most people want to murder people
petty
or be
crimes,
pedophiles
yes.
or whatever.
Petty crimes.
Maybe more than petty. Maybe more than that. But like,
where do you
I'm
draw
not saying
the line? This is very telling. So,
say what?
This is telling to me. So, where do you draw the line?
Thank you, Dave. And I
want to know
understand
what
you're trying.
Crime you would commit,
Dave. I understand you're trying to Stephanie Myers me right now. I know that's what you're trying to do, and I don't know
what that means.
I'm sidestepping this, Dave, because I'm thinking of it
write
philosophically.
A bunch of bad novels about you.
I wish, Dave. I would love to see your bad novels about me based on clones you made. I'd love to see that.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, so I just think that. I think that people are I think that many people are, and I base this on just testimonies of people who have gone to mobs and stuff. And I'm not, like just that kind of stuff where there's been some kind of research on like what happens when people take tests and say like, what if you could get away with it? Would you do this? Would you do that? I've been reading some studies on that because of this movie. I read a few studies on it. And the thing that I think is most interesting about it is most people, they don't want to commit crimes because they want to see what it feels like. They want to commit crimes because they want to have a life that's unencumbered by the restrictions of reality. You know what I mean? And so, like, if somebody can travel back in time or across dimensions, the thing they're going to do is they're going to make a vacation life. You know what I mean? At the expense of whatever they need to do, which is not really what Rick does.
You mean they would make a world where nothing matters and they can do whatever they want?
Yeah, they're gonna make a version of life that's that's Groundhog Day, except for they're not trapped. You know what I mean? Like, it's Groundhog Day in the sense that I can enter into this life and do whatever I want to do, but I could leave if I needed to.
That's not what I would do, and maybe this is telling about me. I would biff it. I would just use it to get rich. That's it.
Well, that's what I mean, though. That's like a small crime. You know what I mean? That's a small crime.
Oh, 100%. But I wouldn't do anything immoral. Again, but
that is immoral.
This is from not with time travel. No. I would, sorry.
What are you talking about?
I guess I should. Expand on that. I would get rich from casinos. I would get rich specifically from gambling because I think taking money from a large, rich corporation is a victimless crime. I wouldn't rob it because then you have to maybe involve victims. Then you might shoot somebody. Then there's people who are just doing their job. That's why it's a victimless crime in my head is you just go back and you gamble correctly, and then you move on. And so you took their money. No one is the wiser, and then you I don't know. Maybe play stock markets. Who gives a shit? I don't know. I would time cop it. I would be that guy in Time Cop who's doing the stock markets.
Right, of course. Yeah. That's what I think most people would do. You just validated what I was saying.
Yeah.
Right? Where you and I don't agree is I don't agree that it's victimless.
I think it's victimless.
You can't possibly know that. You cannot possibly know that. Like, because you'd have to be able to see all the...
It's not victimless in a butterfly effect way, but then do we really want to talk about the butterfly effect in this podcast right now?
Fucking, why not, man? What do you got to do?
Yeah.
What the fuck you got to do? And the point being, I actually don't really want to talk about the butterfly effect. I'm just saying, like, I think people start to snip off morality of things in convenient places, right?
Oh,
so
yes.
like the Good Place did a whole argument.
No, because here's a question, which is, how do you invent? Where did the morality start?
Dude, this is the argument for God. You're getting right into it. Mm-hmm. Right now, you're getting right into that argument. Is that where you want to go?
I don't think it's an argument.
Well, but I mean, like, you're getting into the conversation about that ends in a sort of either morality is an arbitrary evolution that people have to explain.
Do you eat your clone argument?
Right. Or it has a divine origin. Where does morality
start? What is a crime? What is wrong and what is right?
Well, if you're saying what is morality, that's different than where did it come from, although not entirely different.
Look, Adam. What I do is I consult my orb. Every time I'm about to do something, and you know what? You can too. For just $29.99, you can get one of these orbs.
Thank you. I've been waiting for the deal.
Everything you need to know.
This is a deal. It's normally $39.95.
What if I told you that you didn't get just one orb, but two orbs for $29.99?
Is one of them in a cat? Do I get one of them in a cat, Dave?
In a cat?
Yeah, isn't that where your orb is? You put it in your cat like it's a fucking... like it's a Horcrux? Your cat is a Horcrux, Dave.
You don't tell people that.
It contains... See, I knew you didn't want to give me shit. This is why you don't do it. Yeah. Harry Potter, better than Twilight. Am I right?
Where would you rank this Twilight?
Compared to the others?
Did you have any more to say about the soul and morality and stuff? I don't want to cut you off.
Not now, Dave. I know you don't want to have a conversation about that.
I don't care.
What's that?
I just don't care.
That's what I mean. You don't want to have it.
I don't care about morality. I feel like, as you know, I feel secure in morality in that I feel like I know what the rules are. Does that make sense?
I mean, it makes sense that you feel that way, yes.
And I should note that part of the rules is the acknowledgement that you could be wrong at any time. It's what separates normal people. And again, it's not a special rule. I think a lot of people have it. It's the willingness to have humility. That's a big part of it, right? It's what separates us from the Ben Shapiros of the world, is the understanding that you could be wrong.
I would love to see Dave, if I can give you a mild compliment. So, like, for the casino
thing, is like if someone showed me that it wasn't a victimless crime and that it was affecting someone who wasn't just a rich person, and if it was actually hurting a life, then I would say, okay, never mind.
I think you're pretty good as a human being at like having a conversation.
Stop right there,
Dave.
Okay.
I love how much you interrupt me, but this time you've infuriated me.
Adam.
You've infuriated me, Dave.
Okay, go on.
No, just kidding. I love you. So I think you're better than most people I know at sort of containing outrage with a kind of general logic and openness to people's points of view. And you're good at that. You're actually better at it than I am, and which is a thing I admire about you.
Sure.
And I think it's because humility is an easier posture for you than for me. It's a thing I've had to learn through pain most of my life.
Right.
But I know you're right, though. I know you're right about it.
It's the humble brag. It's you can also be very. You can be like boasting how humble you are, which I can do.
That's false humility, of course.
Yeah. I don't think it is. Here's my defense of humble brag,
Dave.
Is that the results are still the same, right? If everybody's clamoring over each other to show how humble they are, then the results are good. The ends justify the means.
See, I don't believe in a morality that's just that.
I don't mind people doing selfless things for selfish reasons.
I don't mind it either, but I don't call it good.
Yeah, the results are good.
Yeah, but the results aren't the only way you measure the morality of a thing.
Sure.
I think our time, like this era, is hold on, Dave. I think this era is plagued by people who think that justifying everything by ends is the only way to decide what's moral, and it's a problem. It's a problem because we actually can't really do that good of a job of justifying the ends because we don't know the ends that well, and because there's a kind of humility that's lacked in it, which is something you just said, and I think it's totally right.
Yeah, I would argue that you don't learn on your own that way by doing things just because you know they're good. You have to know why you're doing them.
It's both things. Yeah, it's both though. It's both things.
But I do think people. I think this is again going back to why religion exists. It's people. Some people just need a reason to do good stuff. Because otherwise they might not do good stuff. I
would argue that the fundamental underlying thing for religion is explaining deep questions, one of which is suffering.
Okay.
Like all religions are fundamentally trying to grapple with suffering, and morality is part of the answer to suffering.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. It has to be.
Yeah.
It has to be. So like a good example is, and I know you're going to be angry. I don't care. You'll be fine. If you're aware of the book of Job. You're aware of it, right? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't know what's in it. I know the name Book of Job.
Great. I'm going to tell you very briefly. I will not bore you, I promise.
Okay.
So, here's what happens.
He's a magician, and he makes a yacht disappear.
Yes, he's a magician. He can't commit to being a magician. His mother's kicking him out of the house.
All right.
And he's like, maybe I do want to follow my dream of being a magician. No, so look. So here's what happens. So Job is the most righteous man, right? It's kind of a poetic book. It's written with a lot of poetry. Job's the most righteous man. Up in heaven, there's an argument between God and Satan. Satan says the only reason Job's a good man is because you bless him. If you didn't bless him, he would curse your face. God says, okay, take all his blessings away. All his blessings are taken away. Job still doesn't curse God. Then Satan comes back and he says, well, the only reason he didn't curse you is because you didn't take his health. So then God says, okay, take all of his health, but spare his life. So Job is then afflicted with awful illness, right? And so Job doesn't know any of this, right? So Job is left with a horrible life. Everything that he loved and cared about gone. And so what happens then is his three friends show up, and most of the book is them arguing, why did this happen?
Okay.
Right? That's what the book is. And the friends make the argument, this must have happened for a reason, and the reason must be because somewhere in your life there's a moral failing. And Job is like, nope, that's not why. In fact, your guys are tormenting me, and I demand that God answers. I demand God answer for this. Right? That's the book.
Yeah, God should be arrested at the end of that story, right?
Actually, well, I have a different opinion, and I want to get into all that with you, but...
what I'm hearing is that Job is Bella, and Job is not in control of Job's life, and Bella is being screwed around by these two guys...
Right.
Who think they know what's best.
Yes, that is what it looks like, isn't it?
Bella's got a bail, you know?
Well, so what's interesting...
If I were Job, I would get some sort of... I would go near radiation. I would do something to make myself able to fight both God and the devil. I would become more powerful than them, and then
Dave,
I would bully them.
I respect your inner punk, and I respect the person who refuses to listen to the entirety of the story without interrupting. I respect both of you. What's that?
I didn't interrupt.
I wasn't done, bro. It's like
you took a pause. Okay, go on.
That's okay, Dave. It's all right. So look. So then what happens is God shows up, right? So Job spends 40 chapters. He's very upset. So God shows up, and God says, "What's that?"
No, go on. Sorry. I'm shocked about the length that Book of Job apparently is.
It's 40 chapters. It's very long. It's very long. So, because it's really, it's about the experience of suffering. That's what it's about.
All right.
So God shows up and says, basically, like, are you the person who created the earth? Is that who you are? And Job's like, nope, I shouldn't have said that. And God's like, correct. You should not have said that. But you haven't sinned. Your friends are the ones that sinned. Your friends are the ones that made the mistake because they said there should have been a moral reason for this, and there did not have to be one. I'm not going to give you the reason, but you didn't suffer because you did something wrong.
He's not going to give him the reason because he knows the reason makes him sound like a petty dick, though. Like, he's like, I'm not good. I won't give you the reason. And he's like, Dave, that must be meaningful. But it's just that God just fucking got involved with this poor guy's life to prove a point.
I think, Dave, that your deep wisdom here is perhaps a little bit shallow for the Book of Job.
He sounds like a dick.
I know it does. And you're not the first person to make that observation. South Park made it. South Park made it. And before South Park, others. Probably for thousands of years. But that really isn't the point of Job. The point of Job is not to explain, was God right or wrong for this conversation, right? Because if you want to do some deep thinking about it, you'll see that there's actually a lot more to that conversation than it appears.
See, the moral I got about that is that powerful people play with other people's lives for petty reasons.
Right, but that's because
why that happened to Job.
But Dave, that's the reading that you would have come to with
it's a
almost
fundamental
everything.
Lack of justice in the world. Is that there's inequality in the world, and that, like, that's why it happened to Job, right?
No, I don't think so. But again, I don't want to spend an hour that it would take to get you to see the point, because what I'm arguing with now is preconceived biases, Dave, not an actual reading of the text.
Okay.
I'm arguing with biases, which, by the way, I don't mind them. I think you're right about it in most cases. In this case, though, I think perhaps a bit of a shallow reading on my summary of the Book of Job.
Okay.
Maybe. Just a little bit.
Noted. I've taken in your notes. I'm just saying the story I heard was about powerful people toying with someone's life to prove a petty point.
But Dave, the problem is the story you took in, and the same one that I took in, by the way, is really just the biases we had. That's the thing that really disturbs me the most about these conversations about morality, is like there's a lot of confirmation bias when we talk about morals.
Sure.
For both of us, for everybody. You know, that's a very disturbing fact about moral conversations, and one that I don't hear talked about. What's that?
It's just chaos.
Yeah, but you don't believe that. You don't believe it's all chaos.
No, I mean, people's belief systems is all chaos.
That's true.
Chaos. It's this is why I don't like these conversations, because number one, I feel like I'm I'm like a college kid who took too much Adderall, where it's like no one gives a shit what we have to say about God and morality. It's not interesting what two white guys who are fairly privileged have to say about this. And I mean, I know that it doesn't disqualify us, our status in life. It's just who gives a shit. I don't think we have anything to teach people.
Because of our background. Our background is the way that we determine whether people's lives are meaningful.
I think because our background isn't necessarily unique, and I don't think what we're saying is important enough.
I completely disagree with that.
Maybe that's
but
just
let's
me.
Continue.
I just don't think I need to give anybody any advice about this.
I agree.
Stuff.
I agree. I didn't set out to do that either, Dave.
Yeah.
Forgive me if I've
I'm just explaining to you why I don't like these conversations. Is because
I'm sorry, Dave.
I just don't care.
I know
what I have to think.
Of course, I understand that, Dave.
Okay.
Do you feel like I'm pressuring you to have this conversation? I don't think I am.
No, I feel like we're pressuring our poor audience to listen to it.
Well, I mean, we are at the 2-hour 40-minute
exactly,
mark.
And it's like I would have shut this off. I would have shut this podcast off. The moment they started talking about God and morality, I would have shut this right off.
Really? You have no interest at all in hearing anybody's point of view about that?
No.
Why? Why no interest at all? That seems very presumptuous.
Because who am I to explain this or talk about it? It's not anything. I don't think it's anything unique.
That's interesting. I hear that a lot, right? It's like, oh, well, who's this person? Therefore, they don't have anything to say. And it's like...
I don't think in a Twilight podcast people are looking for this 100%.
I don't blame anybody who came for a Twilight podcast and didn't stay for the God talk.
It doesn't. Yeah, it doesn't. It just doesn't. I don't know. I don't think it would interest people. I mean, some people maybe. And that's fine. Good for them.
Dave, feel free to cut all of it out. I'm not trying to force.
We don't cut anything, Adam. That's why I don't want to have this conversation.
Then fucking move on, cuts. Dave. I'm just trying to be entertaining here, buddy. And
nothing cuts. Oh, no, I think it's entertaining. I don't think it's informative.
I disagree, Dave, because if I was taking if we were doing a philosophy podcast, I would have probably gone to town. I would have gone to town on the assumption that people can't have meaningful conversations about what morality is unless they fit a demographic. That's totally crazy. Totally crazy. I think some people have more insight into pain and
I don't
into
think that
other
demographic is. I think you're getting stuck on the demographic. I think it's just a very common demographic to me. Is that people in the entertainment industry, people in podcasts, it's white guys.
Sure, I'm aware,
like,
Dave.
It's just another two white guys talking about fucking meaning of life, and it's like, who gives a shit? There's so many of those already. It's like I don't know.
That's interesting you say that because
I'm wake up thankful every day that people want to hear the dumb shit that comes out of my mouth. Because one day they're going to be like, wait a second, no, and I'm going to be like, you got me, and none of this was worth it.
What if your clone?
And then I'm going to grab my thing of money, and I'm going to run for the hills. And I'm going to be like, thing of money? I'm going to tee-hee-hee at him.
Do you have a thing of money, Dave?
No, I'm not doing great financially.
Oh shit! You're just hoping that this moment happens long enough for you to buy a tin to put some nickels in before the collapse occurs. Any of the audience who were bored or frustrated by the conversation about morality and God, trust me, I will never push this on anybody. I promise you.
I know you're not pushing anything. You're pushing a conversation that you think is good for entertainment.
And also because I
know we're going on 50 minutes having not talked about Twilight anymore.
Dude, do you think people are listening to this podcast because they're like, please talk explicitly about Twilight? And
I've gotten multiple people who say, like, I have to rewatch Twilight now.
Sure, but that's not because if it wasn't for... Dave, there's no fucking way if anybody's listening to this podcast only because they just want to hear somebody discuss Twilight, this is a crazy podcast to listen to, because you and I are both ADD maniacs who aren't interested in Twilight more than just as a launch pad for these conversations.
Do we have ADD? I've never been actually...
Dave, what are you fucking talking about? Of course we do.
Really?
What are you talking about?
I don't like self-diagnosing. That feels icky.
Dave, let me be your therapist right now. Buddy, get an Adderall. Put it in your head. Put that Adderall in your head, and you have it. So do I. We cannot... we can't stay on a fucking... We can't summarize a plot.
You mean
we can't
like snort the Adderall? That's how you put it in your head. You got to crush it up and snort it.
Totally fine with you snorting it. We can't summarize the plot, dude. We can't stay on topic enough to get the entire plot of a Twilight out.
We got the entire plot out. This is all supplementary. This is all fucking
this bonus is a B-side material. Podcast. Yeah, this is bonus podcast.
We have. Right I think we have nothing. Okay, hold on. What more do you have to say about Twilight Breaking Dawn?
I would say this movie shouldn't exist. The plot points should have been ported to 3. That's my thought.
Yeah, that makes sense. It should have been 4 movies. They should have pushed it.
Yes. The pregnancy should have been the end of 3. They should have had a wedding in the 3rd act, and Jacob was angry, and then they should have had sex and then gotten pregnant, and Jacob finds out, and that's the end of 3, and then we get into the rest of it for 5.
Right. No, that checks out.
That's what I think.
And quality-wise, where do you rank it?
Worst.
Worst?
Yes, worst. Worst of the films.
What are we up to? This is number 4?
This is 4, yeah.
First one's, all right, Twilight. Second one's
it's the
New Moon?
That's the second episode, yeah. And then Eclipse and then Breaking Dawn.
I'm going to give New Moon the worst only because currently I cannot remember it.
It's the one where we find out there are werewolves.
Yeah, that should have been in the first one too.
Yes. So we're saying there should have been 2
cliff jumps and shit. Oh, yeah, that's the worst one. That's the one where Edward's like, yeah.
And he disappears for the whole movie. Yeah, that's bad. I
would go Twilight, Eclipse, Breaking Dawn, then New Moon so far.
The first one is still the best one because it's the most... We're still having the most fun in the world at that point, right?
Yeah. You're trying to figure out what the fuck's happening.
Yeah, and
you're introduced into this fucking this world of weird wonders.
You're gonna think I'm crazy. I actually still think the directing in the first one is the most creative.
No,
and fun.
I get it because it's the most fitting.
Yes, and it's fun. It's
like this one. They did the ending credits where it was like all weird poppy. Yeah, and I was like, "What the fuck is this?"
Right. The subsequent directors felt like I just need to make a safe, clean, pretty movie.
I think they are. I think what's happening... When was this one made?
2011.
I think... Oh, maybe this is before its time with this. I always feel like every movie is looking at what's around it and just being like, let's do that. Which is that like a poppy fun ending. Like I've seen that in Marvel films. Well, they'll like cut to like fun music and they'll be like, we had a great time. But this wasn't a fun movie. And so like the credits were tonally completely off, you know? It was like, give it like gothic music and make a very solemn credit sequence.
It's just like hard for me to understand. And maybe it's because of my, just the longing I have to direct films. It just seems like I know this person who directed this film has talent and has worked in stuff. But it just seems so like just they didn't care.
Yeah, they didn't care, and they're the wrong director for it. I don't think it's about. It's more that I think what makes the first Twilight work is that it's just tonally fits what you're watching.
I agree with that. It was made by somebody who believed in it, at least a little bit.
Gritty, trying to make it dark. Yeah, trying to make it like good. I guess actually does the opposite thing because it makes you feel like they're trying too hard to deliver a very bad plot.
I think they're trying to make it look professional and slick and sexy.
Right.
But the first movie is not trying to make it look sexy. It's trying to capture the character's emotions and therefore is much more rewarding as a film. Like just the making of it is better for that reason.
Right.
Like all the swooping and the weird zooms and cuts. It's like, well, that's a teenager's feelings, like it's all anxious, and it's better.
Yeah.
And after that, it's been a bunch of postcards. It's like just watching postcards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree.
Are you sad that Alice and the police dad didn't have a little thing?
Yes, of course I'm sad they didn't bone. I know that they weren't going to.
Of course not.
But
it's too controversial.
Yeah. We were never going to see that. We were going to never see them grunting one into each other in like, I don't know, a parking lot.
I don't know if you ever want to see anyone grunting
the places
one.
People have sex.
It's weird to me that you like in a movie like Twilight, the phrase grunting one just really doesn't feel like it fits.
Sure.
I mean, like, or maybe
no one's
maybe
grunting one out in this series. They're all having passionate, weird, romantic sex, the kind that nobody has.
Right, I totally agree, Dave. I kind of feel like you couldn't be in Twilight, which is sort of sad to say.
You don't think I could be in Twilight?
I don't think you could. No, I don't think you or your
I could
your
be one of the
point
jackasses who are like, "Hi, Bella, welcome back to Forks. I'm a local." I could have been one of them guys.
No, but not your spirit.
Like drives by in a
couldn't
truck and it was like, "Yo, hi, welcome back, Bella.
Holy
I knew
shit!
you when you were a kid."
Holy shit! And you say "kid" and hold on to it a little bit like that. You hold on to the word "kid."
This is my audition for the reboot.
Yeah, you're cast.
Welcome back, Bella. Hi.
I'm gonna call your agent.
My name is Gary.
Gary. Okay. Missing Carrie. By the way, what happened to all the rest of the townspeople? They all get murdered?
Yeah, who gives a shit? They don't matter anymore. Whenever a character doesn't matter anymore, they vanish from existence.
In life or just in this movie?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mm-hmm. It wasn't clear to me which one we were talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I could go on forever because I feel like we're sort of daring each other.
Look, I honestly,
yeah.
My goal was to get to 3 hours.
Well, we're doing it. We're so close,
and that gives us an even 10 hours. And so this podcast series might be 12 hours long. It might be 13 hours long. We just have one more, and I don't mind getting longer as we go because, if you listen to the other ones, then I guess you're going to listen to this one. So 3 hours, a 3 hour long podcast.
I think
not about. All right. Here's where I feel like is a sham. Is
sure.
Because we stopped and we talked about other things. I think this is what bothers me about going this long but not talking about Twilight is that then we're not committing to what we should. I know we do tangents a lot.
Sure.
But I always consider them tendrils off the spine that is Twilight.
I would say that
and
everything...
I felt like we went too far off the spine. Like I feel like tangents are good, but our backbone always needs to be Twilight.
Dave, why are you cast shaming me right now? Why are you podcast shaming me?
Because maybe you deserve it. You deserve to feel shame.
Maybe you deserve it.
No, it's not your fault though. It wasn't.
I know it's
you.
not my fault.
It was both of us. We both did that. Our tendrils broke off from the mighty spine that is Twilight, and they started floating in the dark waters of tangent ocean. The ocean.
I'm not
of tangents.
sure. I'm not sure, Dave, because I feel like you go back and listen to that Lighthouse episode. I feel like we got pretty free.
Yeah,
we got pretty free. I don't think the audience is going to be mad. If you're mad, please at Dave on Twitter.
I don't think the audience is going to be mad at all. If they're if they're still listening, I don't think anybody gets mad at podcasts. I think you just shut it off when you're done. Right?
Well,
I rarely get mad at a podcast, but sometimes I just go, okay, and I shut it off, and then I move on to the next one.
This whole podcast is basically a dare. Mm-hmm. It's like a dare to the audience. Are you going to listen this long?
I wonder how many maniacs are listening to us to go to sleep.
Oh, that would be interesting.
I listen to podcasts to go to sleep, and then you have some fucked up dreams, and it's great.
Ooh, can you imagine the dreams we're giving them?
If anybody's sleeping right now,
what are you dreaming about?
What are you dreaming about?
Write them down. Write them down in a journal. Mm-hmm. I guarantee you they involve us eating other people now because you did that.
Let's try to fuck with their dreams. Clown banana. Clown banana. Clown banana. I was listening to, there's a podcast specifically for listening to while you sleep.
Dick Hammer. Keep going.
Uh-huh. And the guy plugs his Patreon halfway through, and I was like, "You motherfucker!"
That's great.
Yeah,
that's great. That's great.
I mean, why wouldn't you?
Well, I mean, like, you know, if people want this entertainment, it's not for free.
I don't know if they want it.
You know, it's not a charity. You're not running a charity.
This is an endurance thing that everybody has to part. I think at this point, people listen to, if they've gotten this far, they've done it out of spite.
Oh yeah.
Should we give them another code word to see if they've gotten this far?
See if they're brain strong. You know, I mean, they're getting brain strong because this is endurance.
Well, we said clown banana.
And we said dick hammer.
Dick hammer. Hashtag clown banana. Hashtag dick hammer.
Then we'll know.
If you listen this far,
we'll know who you are. We'll know if you're crazy or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't think sanity has anything to do with it. I think it's just commitment to the bit that we're all participating in now.
That's right. We're
all part of the bit.
This is a stupid fucking bit.
Mm-hmm.
Dave, are we ever going to do another podcast after this series? Because this is.
I think we're giving ourselves an arc. Right now, we have the dark realization that what we're doing. No, all right, we're at the. Bella is opening her eyes right now.
Yeah.
Right?
This is the all is lost moment. Yeah.
Yeah. So what are we doing with our lives? Let's break up, I guess.
Yeah.
Should we break up?
I think we're gonna have to.
All right, and then people are like, "What's gonna happen?" And then this is another podcast next week, and that'll be the resolution.
And it's 4 hours of moaning. You know what I mean? Like, it's just a lot of wailing and moaning. Yep.
Oh, not like sex moaning, like ghost moaning.
Yeah,
like,
just pain. Yeah, pain. And just, no, Dave, no.
Yeah. And it's 4 hours of that, and then we talk about Twilight for another 3 hours.
It's like it's like that Wilco track about migraine headaches.
Yeah, I think what we're doing can count as some sort of surrealist art at this point.
Oh
right?
God, dude, we're the Frank Zappas of podcasting.
That's exactly what we are.
I'm trying to grow that mustache. That's the whole point of this beard, is to get to the mustache phase. You know,
sure.
So you can get all zapped
That's how you grow mustaches. You grow a beard and then you shave everything off to a mustache.
2 years of beard growing just for the Zappa stash.
Yeah. That's fair.
That's how I've been doing it. Yeah. That's what you got to do.
Yeah.
Can you imagine what if we didn't release any pictures of ourselves, and then for the 5th episode we did a promo picture and we both had Zappa stashes?
That would be incredible.
Holy shit, that'd be great.
I've known someone with a Zappa stash, and
you got to be a real tiger to do it.
I was not happy about it.
Yeah. That's not a blessing. That's a curse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's like becoming a vampire.
Yeah. I'm very curious to see if we get a whole first act of the next movie that's just Bella, like, just figured out how vampire shit works, and she's like, oh shit, I get like extra knees. And
I think it's gonna be Vampire New Mom, where she's like raising a kid and being a vampire. And I honestly, I don't want to set my expectations too high, because I honestly think it'll just be another form of this, where she has a romantic plot with Edward, where they're like trying to be parents.
Sure.
Then in the last 20 minutes, they'll be like, and the Vampire Council wants her. And then they'll fight for Bella and she'll sit inside with the kid or something. I've lowered my expectations at this point.
You're a wiser man than I, because I still am like, no, there's gonna be an ending where the scar matters and she's gonna be a Horcrux or whatever.
That's gonna be the ultimate thing about these movies, is I think they're gonna like Game of Thrones us, where they'll be like, and fuck you, and then it'll end and they'll be like, oh, so I'm the asshole. All right.
By the way,
did all this for nothing.
Well, I do think that Game of Thrones in better hands would have been satisfying.
Yeah.
Same story, better hands, it would have been more satisfying.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Who can say? But we're talking about Game of Thrones. That deserves this whole other podcast.
I would not be on a Game of Thrones podcast because I don't think about it, if that makes sense. I wasn't angry at the ending because I didn't think it was that great, and then it ended badly and I was like, wow. And then that was that. So I don't know.
I haven't thought about it even a little bit since the finale. Like not even a little bit. This is the first time I've thought about it since then.
Man.
Yeah, that's 100% accurate. 100% accurate.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm hungry too. I think it's time. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah. All right. So let's get into our next section.
Twilight? This is Twilight.
Yeah, let's get into Twilight.
This is Twilight.
Let's end. Adam, plug some things.
Thank you. You can find my other podcasts, which are much more evenly paced and listenable, on the Small Beans Network. I have the Director Piece Theater, which is a podcast about the high art of low art films with my friend Abe Epperson. Usually about an hour and a half.
Sure.
And then I have the One-Upsmanship podcast with Mike Swaim, which is about video games.
Did you say Mike Swaim?
Yes, Michael Swaim.
Oh, no, I thought you said my Swaim, like he's your Swaim.
But he is my Swaim. He's my Swammer.
He's all of our
him.
Swaims.
It's true, but I got a special. He's a special.
Okay.
He's a special boy to me. He's special Swaim. At least for the podcast purposes, he's certainly my Swaim. It's called One-Upsmanship. It's about video games. And finally, you can find my other podcast on the Small Beans Network. I'll show you mine if you show me yours, which is a podcast about friendship and sharing media with my buddy Maggie Mayfish. We just released our 3rd episode today, which will date this in time. By the next time you've heard this, I don't know what episode we'll be on. Maybe 4? Who can say?
I don't know, man.
I don't know either.
Man, we could have split this one up into 2 parts, but we're not gonna.
That would be amazing, Twilight. By the way. That'd be fucking amazing if we just keep dividing the podcast into parts for the last 2.
We just keep, they go on forever because we keep dividing them.
There's just 6 parts.
No, it's all in one go. It's all in one go.
That's a really good idea, by the way. That's a funny fucking bit. Since this whole podcast is a troll, that's a funny joke.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I know we're not going to do it, but good idea.
Good, thanks. I'm going to plug our Patreon real quick. Patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. We have exclusive podcasts there, like Tom and Jeff Watch Batman, and Fox Mulder is a Maniac, so check it out. That's it. That's all I want to say.
I'm hoping that the audience will... we might be getting into a Trump space where it's like, what is it going to take for the audience to get mad at us and quit? Or they're going to finally take a stand and say, no, 245, that's the limit. You guys can't go over that. Right?
You think they're going to put limits on us?
Well, I know they're not going to do... And nobody can shackle your spirit, Dave. I know you fly free like a phoenix.
They'll have to kill us first.
Or at least they'll kill a clone if you make one of those, just to see how it feels.
Sure. Know?
Yeah. All right, that's enough.
Ho, ho, ho.